Chapter 1. The Choice That Changed Everything. Happy reading. The night was anything but calm. A foreboding chill swept through the village of Konoha as the moonlight was obscured by thick clouds. The air vibrated with an unearthly chakra, an omen of the chaos to come. Deep in the heart of the village, buildings crumbled, and the ground shook under the wrath of the Nine Tails, the Kyubi. Its roars echoed through the night, a harbinger of doom that no one could ignore. From a rooftop of a partially destroyed building, a young Chunin named Hiroshi watched in horror as the colossal beast rampaged through his home. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat a stark reminder of his mortality and vulnerability in the face of such raw power. Around him, the other ninja fought valiantly, but it was clear that their efforts were mere drops in the ocean against the might of the Kyubi. The Kyubi reared its head, chakra gathering in its mouth. Hiroshi's eyes widened in horror, as he had never seen such a concentration of chakra in one place. The sheer intensity of the malevolent chakra was enough to make his blood run cold. He watched in paralyzed fear as the ball of condensed chakra grew larger, pulsating with terrifying intensity. "Take cover!" a senior jonin shouted, but Hiroshi could barely move. His body seemed to have forgotten how to obey his mind. He could only watch as the Kyubi unleashed its devastating attack, the Bijou Dama careening toward the heart of Konoha with unstoppable force. In that instant, a flash of yellow light blinded Hiroshi. Blinking rapidly, he saw the unmistakable figure of the Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze, glowing with a shroud of chakra and power, standing between the village and the incoming devastation. Minato's presence alone was a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. With his famed Hiraishin no Jutsu, he teleported in front of the Bijou bomb, his hands already weaving through complex seals at a speed that Hiroshi could barely follow or comprehend. Sealing technique, flying thunder god barrier. Minato's voice was steady, filled with an authority that calmed even the most frightened hearts. A glowing barrier formed around the bomb, containing its massive energy. In a split second, the bomb vanished, only to reappear far outside the village, where it exploded harmlessly in a brilliant flash of light. It was a testament to the power of the fourth Hokage. Where hundreds of shinobi would have been obliterated by the bomb, Lord Fourth had neutralized it with a single kunai. Relief washed over Hiroshi, but it was short-lived. The Kyubi, enraged by the thwarting of its attack, lashed out with renewed fury. Its massive tails swept across the village, demolishing buildings and scattering the defenders like leaves in a storm. Hiroshi ducked behind a crumbling wall, barely avoiding being crushed by a falling rooftop. "We need to hold the line," a fellow Chunin shouted, rallying the remaining ninja. Hiroshi nodded, steeling himself. He couldn't afford to be afraid. Not now. Drawing his kunai, he leapt back into the fray, determined to protect his home. Minato reappeared in the midst of the chaos, his expression grim but determined. With another flash of his Hiraishin, he teleported to his wife, Kushina, who lay weak and barely conscious after having the Kyubi forcefully extracted from her, his heart breaking at the sight of her pain. Yet there was no time to grieve. The village needed him, and the Kyubi had to be stopped. "Stay strong, Kushina," he whispered, placing a gentle kiss on her forehead. "I'll protect our village. I am the fourth Hokage, after all." With Kushina's help, Minato prepared for the ultimate sacrifice. Summoning the Shinigami with the dead demon consuming seal, he steeled himself for what he had to do. The ethereal figure of the Shinigami loomed behind him, its cold, lifeless eyes reflecting the gravity of the moment. Minato's hands moved with practiced precision, forming the necessary seals even as the Kyubi thrashed and roared, sensing the impending doom. As Minato completed the seals, he looked down at the small bundle in his arms. A baby with a tuft of dark hair and bright, curious eyes. The infant squirmed, unaware of the momentous events unfolding around him. Minato's heart ached, knowing the burden he was about to place on such a small, innocent life. But there was no other way. The QB had to be contained, and this child, with the protection of his clan and the third Hokage's influence, had the best chance of surviving the ordeal. "Forgive me," Minato whispered, tears mingling with the sweat and grime on his face. He placed the baby gently on the ground, surrounding him with the sealing formula. The QB, realizing what was happening, let out a roar of pure rage, its massive claws swiping at Minato in a desperate attempt to stop him. "Stay back," Minato commanded, his voice unwavering. In a final act of defiance, he summoned a Rasengan and thrust it into the QB's paw, halting its advance. The beast recoiled, snarling in pain. With the last of his strength, Minato completed the seal. The Shinigami's spectral hand reached into the QB, extracting its chakra and sealing it within the tiny body of the infant. The process was excruciating, both for the beast and for Minato, whose life force was drained in the process. The QB's howls echoed through the night as its immense power was forcibly contained. As the seal was completed, the Shinigami faded away, its task done. Minato collapsed to the ground, his body spent and his spirit waning. The village was safe, but at a terrible cost. He looked up at the baby, now marked with the distinctive seal on his stomach, and whispered a final prayer for his future. "Grow strong, little one. Grow strong and protect this village." The last thing Minato saw before his vision faded was the tiny infant, staring up at the sky with wide, curious eyes, unaware of what had happened that night. Hiroshi, witnessing the incredible sacrifice from a distance, felt a mix of awe and sorrow. The village was saved, but the cost had been immense. As the remaining ninja rallied to protect their home from the remnants of the QB's wrath, Hiroshi vowed to honor the Yondame's sacrifice. The child who bore the QB within him would need protection, guidance, and strength to face the challenges ahead. And Hiroshi, like many others, would be there to ensure that the village endured, no matter the cost. The morning sun cast its warm glow over Konoha, but for Naruto Uzumaki, it felt as though the shadows never fully retreated. At 6 years old, Naruto was already accustomed to a life of hardship and solitude. It had been 4 years since the QB attack, a night that had changed his life forever. The orphanage, a place meant to be a sanctuary for children without families, was more of a prison for Naruto. The other children avoided him, either out of indifference or because they were caught up in their own struggles. Naruto had been told by the old lady matron that he was orphaned during the QB's attack. She was one of the few caretakers who showed him any kindness, albeit sporadically. She would tell him stories of that fateful night, of the chaos and devastation that had claimed his parents' lives. This knowledge weighed heavily on Naruto, a constant reminder of his lonely existence. Some of the caretakers were derelict in their duties, turning a blind eye to the needs of children like Naruto. They saw him as just another mouth to feed, a burden on their already stretched resources. Others, however, tried their best with what little they had. They would offer a kind word or an extra helping of food whenever they could, but it was never enough to make up for the lack of genuine care and attention. Life in an orphanage taught Naruto many harsh lessons. He learned that not everyone in Konoha was as fortunate as those who lived in the bustling, happy parts of the village. While some villagers carried on with their lives, blissfully ignorant of the hardships faced by the orphans, others chose to ignore the existence of such unfortunate souls altogether. They acted as if every resident of Konoha was happy and well cared for, turning a blind eye to the orphanage and its inhabitants. Naruto quickly understood that he had to rely on himself if he wanted to survive. He realized that happiness and success wouldn't be handed to him. He had to earn them through his own efforts. This awareness shaped his worldview, instilling in him a work ethic and resilience that set him apart from his peers. He knew that in a world where people often look the other way, he had to be his own source of strength and determination. These experiences also gave Naruto a unique perspective on life. He saw the contrast between the carefree lives of the villagers and the struggles of the orphans. He understood that appearances could be deceiving and that true strength came from within. The world wasn't always fair, but he was determined to carve out his own place in it, no matter the obstacles. Naruto had learned quickly to fend for himself. His days began early, long before the other children stirred. He would wake up, dress in his worn but clean clothes, and slip out of the orphanage to train. The forest near the village became his sanctuary, a place where he could practice the techniques he read about in the academy's textbooks. Despite the loneliness, Naruto's determination never wavered. He had a sharp mind and an insatiable curiosity, traits that set him apart from his peers. While other children played, Naruto studied. He devoured every scroll and book he could get his hands on, absorbing knowledge with an intensity that belied his young age. At the academy, Naruto's talents shone brightly. He skipped year after year, moving swiftly through the curriculum. His rapid advancement irritated many of the older students, who couldn't understand how a child so young could surpass them. Their annoyance often turned into bullying, but Naruto had learned to navigate these social waters with the precision of a seasoned shinobi. He avoided direct confrontation with the children of influential families. Naruto knew that fighting them would bring more trouble than it was worth. Instead, he focused on outsmarting them. When they tried to corner him, he would use his agility and quick thinking to escape. He became adept at reading the social hierarchy of the academy, identifying those he could confront and those he needed to avoid. One particular day stood out in Naruto's memory. He was sitting alone under a tree during lunch, a habit he had developed to avoid trouble. He was engrossed in a book on chakra control, his brow furrowed in concentration. Suddenly, a shadow fell over him. Looking up, he saw 3 older boys standing there, their expressions hostile. "Hey, Uzumaki," the leader of the trio sneered. "Think you're better than us?" Naruto closed his book and stood up, his small frame straightening with a confidence that belied his age. "I don't think I'm better than anyone," he replied evenly. "I'm just trying to learn." The leader scowled and took a step closer. "You think you're smart, huh? Skipping all those grades. You don't belong here." Naruto's eyes flicked to the boys behind the leader, assessing the situation. He knew these boys came from relatively poor families with little influence. They were safe to confront, but he also knew that fighting wouldn't solve anything. "Look," Naruto said, his tone calm and measured. "I don't want any trouble. If you think I'm doing something wrong, take it up with the teachers." The leader's face twisted in anger, and he lunged at Naruto. But Naruto was ready. He sidestepped the attack with ease, his movements fluid and precise. The other boys hesitated, uncertain whether to join in. Naruto took advantage of their indecision, using a burst of speed to put some distance between them. "What's the matter?" Naruto called back, a small smile playing on his lips. "Can't keep up." The leader's face turned red with rage, but before he could respond, a voice rang out. "What's going on here?" Naruto turned to see Iwashi Tatami, one of the academy instructors, approaching. Iwashi's stern gaze swept over the scene, taking in the tense standoff. As a fellow orphan, Iwashi understood the hardships Naruto faced, but unlike Naruto, he came from a minor clan of smiths known for producing premium kunai and other ninja accessories, which gave him a slight edge in status and skills. "Nothing, Iwashi-sensei," Naruto said quickly. "Just a misunderstanding." Iwashi looked between Naruto and the older boys, his expression softening slightly. "All of you back to class. Now." The boys muttered under their breaths, but obeyed, casting dark looks at Naruto as they went. Iwashi stayed behind, watching as Naruto gathered his things. "You handle that well, Naruto," Iwashi said quietly. "But you need to be careful. Not everyone will understand." Naruto nodded, his eyes serious. "I know, Iwashi-sensei, but I have to keep pushing forward. It's the only way I'll succeed." Iwashi sighed, placing a hand on Naruto's shoulder. "You're a talented student, Naruto. But remember, it's not just about strength or intelligence. It's about how you use what you have." Naruto smiled up at Iwashi, a rare moment of genuine warmth breaking through his usually stoic exterior. "I'll remember that, Iwashi-sensei." As Naruto continued to excel, the gap between him and his peers widened. His academic prowess and physical abilities were unmatched, yet he remained unaware of just how extraordinary he truly was. To him, every achievement was a result of his relentless work ethic. He believed that his success was solely due to the hours he spent training and studying, not realizing that his innate talent played a significant role. Despite his accomplishments, Naruto's life at the orphanage remained harsh. The caretakers saw him as a troublemaker, a child who didn't fit in with the rest. They were quick to reprimand him for the smallest infractions, often punishing him more harshly than the other children. Naruto endured it all with quiet resilience, refusing to let their treatment break his spirit. A few caretakers, however, did their best to provide support within the limitations of their resources, but it was often not enough to make a significant difference. His evenings were spent in solitude, practicing his ninjutsu in the dim light of his small room. He had managed to gather a few basic tools, a kunai, some shuriken, and a couple of worn-out training scrolls. These were his prized possessions, and he used them to hone his skills, pushing himself to the limits of his young body. Naruto's social awareness kept him out of major trouble, but it didn't shield him from the loneliness. He watched from a distance as other children formed bonds and friendships, their laughter and camaraderie a stark contrast to his isolated existence. He yearned for companionship, but knew better than to seek it openly. The few times he had tried to make friends, he had been met with rejection and hostility. His only solace came from the academy, where he could lose himself in the rigorous training and challenging coursework. Here, he felt a sense of purpose, a drive to prove himself. His instructors recognized his potential, often pushing him harder than the others, knowing that he could handle it. As Naruto's skills grew, so did his reputation. Stories of the prodigious child who could outmatch students twice his age began to spread. Some of his peers respected him, others envied him, and a few outright despised him. But Naruto paid little attention to the gossip. His focus remained on his goal, to become the best shinobi he could be. On the day of his graduation, Naruto felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. He stood in front of the academy gates, the sun rising behind him, casting long shadows across the courtyard. He had trained relentlessly for this moment, honing his skills to perfection. Yet, a small part of him wondered what lay ahead. The graduation ceremony was a formal affair, with students lined up in neat rows, waiting for their names to be called. Naruto stood among them, his heart pounding with anticipation. As the head instructor, Iwashi, called out the names of the graduates, Naruto's mind raced with thoughts of the future. He couldn't help but wonder what his life would have been like if the Kyuubi hadn't attacked. Who would his parents be? Would he live a life of luxury or poverty? These questions haunted him, but he knew one thing for sure. Despite the hardships, he was determined to be powerful, influential, and rich. Naruto's journey to the academy wasn't a straightforward one. He had initially wanted to attend a civilian school, but the costs were far beyond what he could afford. The Shinobi Academy, however, was free, albeit with a significant catch. Enrollment meant committing his life to the service of the village. For Naruto, it was his only viable option. As he waited for his name to be called, Naruto's resolve hardened. He had been treated like any other orphan, with no special privileges or support. But he had worked tirelessly to excel, to prove that he was more than just another faceless child in the system. His goal was clear: to rise above his circumstances and become someone who could command respect and authority. "Uzumaki Naruto," Iwashi's voice rang out. Naruto stepped forward, his head held high. He accepted his headband with a sense of pride, tying it around his forehead. The symbol of Konoha, the village he had worked so hard to protect, gleamed in the sunlight. As the ceremony concluded, Naruto felt a wave of emotions wash over him. He had achieved his goal, but he knew this was just the beginning. The path of a shinobi was fraught with challenges, and he would need all his strength and determination to navigate it. Walking away from the academy, Naruto glanced back one last time. The building that had been both a sanctuary and a battleground for him now stood as a testament to his resilience. He turned and headed towards the orphanage, his mind already planning his next steps. The future was uncertain, but Naruto was ready to face it head-on. With his headband securely in place and the lessons of his past guiding him, he set out on a journey that would test his limits and define his destiny. Chapter 2. Is this the beginning of my legacy? Happy reading. Naruto's POV. The dim light of dawn filtered through the small window of my bunker, casting long shadows across the Spartan room. I stirred from my sleep, blinking away the remnants of my dreams. The bunker was a significant improvement from the orphanage, a place that was supposed to be a sanctuary but felt more like a prison. This small, functional, and bare room was mine, a place I could finally call my own. I remember vividly the day I moved out of the orphanage. The caretakers had made it clear that once I completed the academy, I had to leave. I was now considered a shinobi and an adult, even though I was only 6 years old. They couldn't afford to feed me anymore, they said. Left with no choice, I rented this bunker using a shinobi loan. The weight of the debt was heavy, but the sense of independence and pride it gave me was worth it. I sat up and swung my legs over the side of the bed, the cool floor sending a shiver up my spine. The room, though small, felt like a sanctuary. The plain concrete walls were bare, save for a few cracks that added a rugged charm to the place. My bed, a simple frame with a thin mattress, was pushed against one wall, and a wooden shelf held my neatly folded clothes. Standing, I walked over to the small mirror hanging on the wall. I stared at my reflection, taking in the image of a young boy with vibrant red hair, fair skin, and bright blue eyes. My red hair, a striking contrast to my fair skin, stood out vividly, making me easily recognizable. My tiny muscles were well-defined from constant training, but I lacked the bulk that proper nourishment would have provided. I traced a finger over my cheek, noting my flawless skin. There aren't many people with red hair, I mused to myself, recalling the whispers and curious glances I often received. I must be from the Uzumaki clan. After all, my last name is Uzumaki. I had pieced together fragments of information about my heritage from the limited books I could find. The Uzumaki clan was known for their powerful sealing techniques, hailing from a small island nation that had been destroyed during the Second Shinobi War. This knowledge both fascinated and saddened me. I often wondered whether it was my mother or father, or perhaps both, who had been Uzumaki, and who among them had the red hair. I wondered what my parents might have been like. Were they strong shinobi? Did they have the same red hair and blue eyes? My imagination often filled in the gaps left by the absence of concrete information. I envisioned a loving family, powerful and kind, who would have been proud of my accomplishments. But these were just dreams, and I knew better than to dwell on what-ifs. I knew very little about the Uzumaki clan. From the small amount of information I had gathered, I believed they were a minor clan that had been wiped out during the Second Shinobi War. They couldn't survive the shift from the era of great clan wars to the village system. Their specialty was in sealing arts, a unique and powerful form of jutsu that few could master. This mystery surrounding my heritage both fascinated and saddened me, adding to the void left by not knowing my parents. Shaking off these thoughts, I turned my attention back to my immediate reality. I reached for my clothes, neatly folded on the shelf. I pulled on my second-hand shinobi outfit, black pants and a black shirt that fit me loosely. The fabric was worn and patched in places, but it served its purpose. I strapped a kunai holster to my waist, a piece of equipment I had pilfered from a training ground where the rich, spoiled brats didn't bother to pick it up or it had been abandoned after long-term use. Fully dressed, I took a moment to survey my small domain. Despite its simplicity, the bunker represented my first step towards independence. The orphanage, with its cold walls and indifferent caretakers, was behind me. Here, I was in control, even if it meant shouldering the burden of alone. I had no one to rely on but myself, and that was just fine with me. Standing in the middle of the room, I allowed myself to dream. This small, modest bunker was just the beginning. In this confined space, I saw the seeds of my future, a future where I would no longer be bound by the constraints of poverty. I envisioned living in a grand house, filled with warmth and light, a stark contrast to the cold and indifferent walls of the orphanage. I saw myself dressed in fine clothes, not the worn and patched hand-me-downs I currently wore. My dreams extended beyond material wealth. I imagined a life of power and influence, where I would rise through the ranks as a respected shinobi, earning the admiration and respect of my peers. The whispers and curious glances would change from those of pity and disdain to awe and reverence. I would become someone who could make a difference, not just for myself, but for others who had faced similar hardships. To me, luxury wasn't about indulgence, but a symbol of my hard work and determination. I dreamed of a life where I could eat nourishing food every day, train with the best equipment, and never worry about where my next meal would come from. The thought of such a future filled me with hope and a renewed sense of purpose. These dreams drove me forward, pushing me to work harder, train longer, and never give up. They were the light at the end of a tunnel filled with challenges and obstacles. Achieving these dreams wouldn't be easy, but I welcomed the struggle. Every step I took, every challenge I overcame, brought me closer to the life I envisioned. The bunker, though small and simple, was a symbol of my potential. It represented the first rung on a ladder that led to a future filled with possibilities. I was determined to climb that ladder, no matter how long it took or how difficult the journey. I had no one to rely on but myself, and I was ready to face whatever came my way with optimism and unwavering resolve. I stepped out of my bunker into the crisp morning air of Konoha. The village was slowly coming to life, with vendors setting up their stalls and villagers beginning their daily routines. I inhaled deeply, savoring the fresh scent of the morning. The sky was a brilliant shade of blue, and the early sunlight bathed the village in a warm, golden glow. As I walked through the village towards the academy, I couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. Today was the day I would be assigned to a team, a momentous step in my journey to become a powerful and respected jonin. The streets were bustling with activity, a stark contrast to the quiet solitude of my bunker. People hurried about, their faces a mix of determination and contentment. I watched them with a mixture of curiosity and longing. I wondered if one day I would be among them, not as an outsider, but as someone who belonged. The academy building loomed ahead, a familiar sight that had become a second home to me. To me, the academy was more than just a place of learning. It was a battleground where I had fought to prove myself day after day. The corridors echoed with the footsteps of students, and the walls were adorned with pictures of past graduates, reminding everyone of the legacy they were expected to uphold. I entered the building and made my way to the classroom. As I walked down the hall, I observed the other students chatting and laughing in groups. I felt a pang of loneliness, but quickly pushed it aside. I had come this far on my own, and I would continue to do so. The classroom was already filling up with students when I arrived. I took my usual seat near the window, preferring the quiet and the view it offered. I watched as my classmates filed in, their faces a mix of excitement and nervousness. Today was a big day for all of us. Iwashi Tatami, our instructor, entered the room shortly after. Iwashi was a fellow orphan, but unlike me, he came from a minor clan of smiths known for producing premium kunai and other ninja accessories. This background gave Iwashi a slight edge in status and skills, but he had always treated me fairly. "Good morning, everyone," Iwashi began, his voice steady and authoritative. "Today, you'll be assigned to your teams. These teams will be your family for the foreseeable future. You'll train together, complete missions together, and grow stronger together." I listened intently, my heart pounding with anticipation. I had heard stories about the legendary Team 7, which had produced some of Konoha's finest shinobi. The original Team 7 had been led by Tobarama Senju, the second Hokage, followed by Team Hiruzen Sarutobi, which included the legendary Sannin, Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru. Then there was Team Jiraiya, which spawned the Yellow Flash himself, Minato Namikaze, and finally, Team Minato, which produced the renowned Kakashi Hitaki of the Sharingan. I dare to hope that I could get into such a team with a long and prestigious legacy. The thought of being part of this lineage filled me with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Iwashi continued calling out names and team assignments. My mind raced with thoughts about my future teammates and sensei. I hoped to be placed in a team where I could continue to excel and prove my worth. Team 7, Iwashi announced, drawing everyone's attention. Uzumaki Naruto. My heart skipped a beat as I stood up, feeling the weight of the moment. I almost missed the names of my teammates in my shock and excitement, but I forced myself to stay composed. Inazuka Ken and Risha Fubuki, Iwashi continued. I recognized Ken as a member of the Inazuka clan, known for their close bonds with their ninja dogs. Ken was 12, twice my age, and had a fierce determination in his eyes. He was typical of the Inazuka, with his brashness and arrogance, often butting heads with others to establish himself as the alpha. I had already clashed with Ken a few times, but I was determined to make it work for the sake of the team. Risha Fubuki, on the other hand, was 13 and came from a family with a long history of shinobi service, though they were relatively new, perhaps third or fifth generation. I didn't have much contact with her nor much information, except that she came from a wealthy family and carried an air of quiet confidence and strength. Your Jonin sensei will be Kakashi Hitaki, Iwashi finished, a note of respect in his voice. My eyes widened in awe. Kakashi Hitaki was a legendary shinobi, renowned for his skills and accomplishments. The thought of being trained by such a revered figure filled me with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. I had heard many stories about Kakashi. He was the son of Tsukumo Hitaki, the White Fang of Konoha, a shinobi whose very name struck fear into the hearts of enemies and inspired admiration among his comrades. Despite the tragic end to Tsukumo's life, Kakashi had carried on his father's legacy with distinction. He became a student of Minato Namikaze, the Yellow Flash, and quickly made a name for himself as a prodigy. Kakashi was famous not only for his skill with the Sharingan, an eye technique he had gained under mysterious circumstances, but also for his extensive knowledge and tactical genius. Being under his guidance was an honor and a challenge, one that I was eager to embrace. Follow me, Iwashi instructed, leading the newly formed Team 7 out of the classroom and towards the meeting room where Kakashi awaited us. As we walked through the academy, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. I had made it this far, despite all the obstacles and hardships. And now, under the guidance of Kakashi Hitaki, I was ready to take the next step in my journey to become a powerful shinobi. Chapter 3. Is this my new journey? Happy reading. Naruto's POV. Standing in front of the academy meeting room, my heart pounded with anticipation. This was it, the moment I would meet my Jonin sensei, Kakashi Hitaki, and truly begin my journey as a shinobi. I had heard countless stories about him, about his genius and legendary skills. Now, I was going to be trained by him. I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nerves. The door slid open, and there he was, lounging against the wall with an air of nonchalance, but a sense of power and assuredness. Ready, prepared, and on time like a true ninja should be. His silver hair stood out, and the mask covering half his face added to his mysterious aura. One eye was covered by his forehead protector, and the other observed us with a calm, assessing gaze. Welcome, Team 7. Kakashi greeted us, his voice calm and measured. I'm Kakashi Hitaki, your Jonin sensei. I glanced at my teammates, Ken, with his usual brash confidence, and Risha, who seemed calm but focused. We exchanged uncertain looks before turning our attention back to Kakashi. Before we start any missions, there's a test you have to pass, Kakashi continued. Ken scoffed, crossing his arms over his chest. Another test? Haven't we proven ourselves enough? Kakashi's eye curved into what I guessed was a smile. This test is different. It will determine if you're truly ready to be a team. Risha raised an eyebrow, her voice steady. What kind of test are we talking about? Kakashi's demeanor remained casual as he explained, Meet me at Training Ground 3 at dawn tomorrow. And don't eat breakfast, you'll just throw it up. I felt a jolt of surprise and curiosity. Another test, after everything we had already gone through at the academy, but I nodded along with the others, ready to prove myself. Ken smirked, clearly unfazed. Piece of cake. I'll show you what I'm made of. Risha nodded thoughtfully, her eyes narrowing as she considered Kakashi's words. We'll be there. I looked at Kakashi, composed and focused. I'll be ready, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi nodded, his gaze lingering on each of us. Good. Get a good night's rest. You'll need it. As he turned to leave, I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and curiosity. This was our chance to prove ourselves, and I wasn't going to let it slip away. The next morning, we gathered at the academy and headed to the classroom where we would meet our Jonin sensei. The room was buzzing with excitement as students met their sensei for the first time. I felt a surge of excitement as I scanned the room, looking for Kakashi. Other Jonin were already there, introducing themselves to their students and discussing their first missions. The anticipation in the room was palpable, and I couldn't help but feel a rush of adrenaline. But as time passed, my excitement began to wane. Ken was pacing back and forth, his impatience growing with each minute. Risha sat quietly, her calm demeanor masking any frustration she might have felt. I tried to stay optimistic, but as the minutes turned into hours, my excitement gave way to anxiety and confusion. Where is he? Ken muttered, his irritation evident. This is ridiculous. Risha glanced at the clock, her eyes narrowing. He's 3 hours late. I couldn't help but feel a knot of worry forming in my stomach. Had we been forgotten? Or was this some kind of test in itself? Just as my anxiety was about to boil over, the door slid open, and Kakashi strolled in, his demeanor as relaxed as ever. Good morning, he greeted us, as if he wasn't 3 hours late. Ken's face turned red with anger. Good morning? You're 3 hours late. Risha crossed her arms, her voice laced with irritation. We've been waiting here for hours. Kakashi scratched the back of his head, his eye curving into an apologetic look. Oh, did I say dawn? My bad. I must have gotten the time wrong. I couldn't help but feel a mix of irritation and confusion. Was he serious? Or was this part of the test? Kakashi's demeanor remained relaxed as he continued. All right, let's get started. Your task is simple. You have until noon to take these bells from me. If you don't get a bell, you go back to the reserve corps. He held up 2 small bells, their metallic jingling almost mocking us. I felt my stomach tighten with determination. Ken cracked his knuckles, his eyes gleaming with excitement, while Risha assessed the situation quietly, her mind already at work on a plan. Only 2 bells, Ken noted with a smirk. Looks like one of us is going back to the reserve corps. We'll see about that, I replied, my voice steady despite the nerves. As the test began, Ken immediately charged at Kakashi with a ferocious battle cry. I could see his typical Inuzuka brashness on full display. Meanwhile, Risha moved cautiously, trying to gauge Kakashi's movements. I decided to watch for a moment, analyzing the situation before making my move. Kakashi easily dodged Ken's attacks, barely moving from his spot. His relaxed demeanor was both impressive and frustrating. Ken's brute strength and speed were no match for Kakashi's agility and experience. I realized then that raw power wouldn't be enough to beat him. Risha attempted a different approach, using her agility to try and catch Kakashi off guard. She darted in and out, testing his defenses with quick, precise strikes. But Kakashi remained unfazed, countering her every move with minimal effort. I watched intently, formulating my own strategy. Kakashi's prowess was undeniable, but there had to be a way to outsmart him. I needed to find a weakness, something that could give us an edge. But first, I needed to understand his fighting style better. As I continued to observe, I noticed how Kakashi seemed almost bored, his posture relaxed, and his movements fluid. He was toying with us, testing our abilities without exerting much effort. It was both infuriating and motivating. If we were going to pass this test, we needed to step up our game and work together. Initially, I fell for the ruse, thinking that getting a bell was the only way to graduate. I joined the fray, hoping to use my own speed and cunning to snatch a bell, while Kakashi was distracted by Ken and Risha. But every attempt was met with the same effortless counter. Kakashi was always a step ahead. "Ken, Risha, we need to coordinate our attacks," I shouted, hoping to get their attention. Ken scoffed, his pride clearly wounded from his failed attempts. "I don't need your help, shrimp." Risha glanced at me, her expression thoughtful but hesitant. "What do you suggest, Naruto?" "We need to create an opening," I replied, my mind racing. "Ken, you keep him busy with your strength. Risha, look for an opening to strike. I'll find a way to distract him." Ken grumbled, but eventually nodded, realizing that brute force alone wouldn't be enough. Risha gave a small nod, her eyes focused and determined. We moved into position, ready to execute our plan. Ken charged at Kakashi again, his attacks more controlled and strategic this time. Risha moved with him, waiting for the right moment to strike. I circled around, looking for an opportunity to create a distraction. However, as soon as Ken's attacks missed and Risha moved in, Ken's frustration boiled over. "Get out of my way, Risha. You're just slowing me down." Risha shot back. "Your brute force isn't working, Ken. We need a different approach." Their bickering continued even as they fought, making their movements uncoordinated and sloppy. I tried to intervene, but their tempers were too high. "Both of you, stop fighting. We need to work together if we want to have a chance," I pleaded. But my words fell on deaf ears. Ken and Risha's pride and stubbornness overshadowed their ability to see reason. They kept trying to outdo each other, each one wanting to prove they could take down Kakashi alone. Ken lunged at Kakashi with a flurry of punches and kicks, his movements wild yet powerful. Kakashi dodged and parried with ease, his expression never changing. Risha took advantage of the distraction, attempting to sweep Kakashi's legs out from under him. Kakashi jumped, avoiding the sweep, and landed lightly on his feet. "Not bad," Kakashi remarked, his tone almost bored, "but you'll have to do better than that." I took a deep breath, focusing my chakra. I needed to create an opening. Using the basic jutsu I had learned at the academy, I performed a few hand signs and launched a hinge no jutsu, transforming into a kunai and positioning myself near Kakashi's feet. My plan was to revert back and grab the bell when he was distracted. Kakashi's eye widened slightly as he engaged with Ken and Risha. Just as I was about to transform back, Kakashi kicked the kunai into the air. I reverted back to my original form, flipping midair and landing awkwardly on my feet. "Nice try," Kakashi said, his voice calm, "but not good enough." Despite our best efforts, Kakashi remained untouchable. He countered Ken's attacks effortlessly and anticipated Risha's strikes with ease. It was clear that our lack of coordination and experience was holding us back. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, I felt a growing sense of frustration. We were running out of time, and our chances of getting those bells seemed increasingly slim. I had to come up with a new approach that could turn the tide in our favor. "Ken, Risha, fall back for a moment," I called out, retreating to a safe distance. They joined me, both of them breathing heavily and looking frustrated. "What now?" Ken demanded, his eyes blazing with determination. "We need to think outside the box," I said, my mind racing. "Kakashi-sensei is too strong for us to beat head-on. We need to find a way to outsmart him." Risha nodded slowly, her eyes thoughtful. "What if we use the environment to our advantage? There are plenty of trees and obstacles we can use for cover and surprise attacks." Ken grunted in agreement. "Fine, But we need to move fast. We're running out of time. Despite our plan, it quickly became clear that neither Ken nor Risha were willing to truly cooperate. Ken, bristling with arrogance, believed he could overpower Kakashi with brute strength. Risha, on the other hand, saw me as too young and inexperienced, thinking she could outsmart both Kakashi and us to take the bell for herself. As Ken and Risha argued, their voices rising in frustration, I tried to get them to see reason. We need to work together if we want to have a chance. Stay out of this, Naruto, Ken snapped. You're just a kid. Let the real shinobi handle this. Risha added, Naruto, we appreciate your effort, but you should focus on not getting in the way. Their refusal to work together left me feeling frustrated and helpless. I watched as they both charged at Kakashi again, their attacks uncoordinated and easily countered. Kakashi dismantled their efforts with minimal effort, his movements fluid and precise. My frustration reached a boiling point. If they wouldn't listen, I had to take matters into my own hands. Gathering my chakra, I prepared to use the one advanced technique I had managed to learn from a pilfered scroll, Suetun Tepidama, the water bullet jutsu. As Kakashi easily deflected Ken and Risha's attacks, I took a deep breath and launched a high-powered water bullet directly at him. The force of the attack caught Kakashi off guard, and he was momentarily surprised. With slight difficulty, Kakashi managed to block the water bullet by summoning a very strong earth wall, which absorbed the impact of the water jutsu. Not bad, Naruto, Kakashi said, his tone showing a hint of genuine respect. But you'll need more than that. Despite my best efforts, it was clear that our lack of coordination and teamwork was our downfall. Ken and Risha's refusal to work together, combined with Kakashi's superior skills, left us struggling to make any real progress. The bells jingled mockingly at his waist, a constant reminder of our failure. As the noon bell rang, signaling the end of the test, we stood there, panting and defeated. Kakashi's expression remained impassive as he looked at us, his gaze sharp and assessing. You didn't get the bells, he said calmly, which means you failed. I felt a sinking feeling in my chest, a mix of disappointment and frustration. We had given it our all, but it wasn't enough. Kakashi's gaze softened slightly as he continued. But there's more to this test than just getting the bells. You all failed to work as a team. He paused, letting his words sink in. A shinobi who breaks the rules is scum, but a shinobi who abandons their comrades is worse than scum. Remember that. With that, Kakashi disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving us to reflect on our failure. As the weight of his words settled over us, we realized the true purpose of the test, teamwork. We had failed not because we lacked skill, but because we hadn't learned to trust and rely on each other. Why didn't you two listen? I shouted at Ken and Risha, my frustration spilling out. If we had just worked together, we might have stood a chance. Ken glared at me, his pride still stinging from his failure. Don't blame this on us, Naruto. You were the one who didn't belong here in the first place. Risha looked away, her expression unreadable. We all failed, Naruto. There's no point in arguing about it now. Despite the disappointment and anger, I felt a growing resolve. This was just the beginning of our journey, and I was determined to become stronger and prove myself. Together or not, I would overcome these challenges and rise to the top. Chapter 4, From Dreams to Desperation. Before I get into the story, I would like to address a few reviews. Please comment and let me know where I can improve or your thoughts on this story. Ajayaji 7878 Chapter 5. Thank you so much for your kind words. I'm thrilled to hear that you enjoyed the storytelling and character development. It's encouraging to know that the pacing and plot twists are resonating with readers. Your anticipation for future chapters motivates me to continue crafting this story. Stay tuned for more. Big Inferno Chapter 4. Thanks for your question. At this stage, Naruto's journey will involve a lot of personal growth. He will form various relationships, some of which will be platonic and others more complex. There will be subsequent breakups and new connections, keeping an element of suspense. Keep reading to find out. Thank you for the review. Thor 94, Chapter 2. I appreciate your detailed feedback. Here are some clarifications. The villager's memory of Naruto is affected by the fact that Minato's marriage to Kushina was kept secret, which will be explained in upcoming chapters. Regarding the Kyuubi's escape, the seal weakening is tied to Naruto's sister's narrative, not his birth. The fates of those who died in the attack will be explored. Naruto's inheritance will come into play, but it won't involve him confronting the council and demanding everything back. His journey involves discovering and reclaiming his heritage, challenging the status quo in a different manner. Thank you for the review. God of Wind 200 Chapter 2. Thank you for your insights. Mikoto's potential guardianship of Naruto will not occur due to Kushina's unique role in Konoha, which will be explained. There are plot reasons for why no one took Naruto in. Naruto's Uzumaki heritage and chakra levels will become significant as the story unfolds. Konohamaru's age and the timing of the Kyuubi attack are intentional choices to create a different dynamic. Naruto's hardworking nature and self-reliance are key aspects of his character that I aim to retain, albeit with new challenges and circumstances. His mentality will evolve as he grows. Thank you for your feedback. Optimistically, Chapter 3. Thank you. I'm glad you're enjoying the story. More chapters are on the way, so stay tuned. I'm sorry for the delayed reply. You are the second person to review and appreciate this FIC, and it means a lot to me. BL Chapter 8. Thank you for your support. I'm committed to continuing this FIC and appreciate your encouragement. More exciting developments are coming up. You are the first person to review and appreciate this FIC, and it means a lot to me. Happy reading. Part 1. Naruto's POV. 6 months ago, I was on top of the world, my dreams within reach. It was going to take a lot of effort, a lot more work, but effort was never something I shied away from. Then, I faced severe financial difficulties after Kakashi failed me during the graduation exam. This failure meant I couldn't submit my graduation certificate to the Shinobi office, which led to the immediate cancellation of my Shinobi loan. The demand for immediate repayment of the loan came swiftly, and I had no means to pay it off entirely. I had to dip into my emergency savings, which I had earned from doing odd jobs around the village. This small amount of money was barely enough to cover the remaining loan amount, leaving me with nothing. Without any funds left, I could no longer afford to pay rent for my small bunker. I was evicted and became homeless at the tender age of 6. The orphanage, already unable to support me post-academy, was no longer an option. For the past 6 months, I survived only on the meager stipend provided by the village, which was hardly enough to afford even basic food. Each day was a struggle, and I often went to bed hungry. I found a temporary shelter under a bridge near a ravine and slope on the outskirts of the village. The bridge provided some cover from the elements, and the ravine offered a bit of privacy, hidden away from the bustling village life. It wasn't much, but was a place I could call my own, however inadequate it felt. I gathered discarded materials to create a makeshift bed and used whatever I could find to keep myself warm during the cold nights. During this time, I often contemplated how I managed to make ends meet. The small odd jobs I took on, such as running errands, carrying supplies, and cleaning, were my only sources of income. Despite these hardships, my determination never wavered. I continued to train and hone my skills, driven by the hope that one day my circumstances would improve. Balancing work and study was incredibly challenging. My days were a blur of relentless activity. I would wake up at dawn, using the early morning hours to train my body and practice taijutsu katas by the riverbank. After a quick breakfast of whatever scraps I could afford, I would head off to class, my mind buzzing with the information I needed to absorb. Classes lasted until early afternoon, a necessary but grueling part of my day. As soon as they ended, I would take on any job I could find, running errands for shopkeepers, carrying heavy supplies, and cleaning various places around the village. I did whatever was needed to earn a few coins. The work was exhausting, but I couldn't afford to stop. Evenings were dedicated to further training. I would find a quiet spot near my shelter to practice ninjutsu and chakra control techniques. The moonlight was often my only source of illumination as I perfected my skills, pushing my limits despite the fatigue that threatened to overwhelm me. There were nights when my hands bled from the rough training, and my body ached with exhaustion, but I couldn't let that stop me. Every moment of training brought me closer to my goals, even if the progress felt painfully slow. My thoughts often drifted to the irony of my situation. Despite my prodigious talent and hard work, I was trapped in a cycle of poverty and homelessness. Yet, this adversity only fueled my resolve to prove myself and change my destiny. Living under the bridge, I could see the vast sky above me and the flowing ravine below, reminding me of the wide world I was determined to conquer and the constant flow of life I aimed to rise above. The harsh conditions and constant struggle made me stronger, more resilient. Every night, as I lay on my makeshift bed, I would look up at the stars and promise myself that I would not be defeated by these circumstances. I would find a way to rise above it all, to become the shinobi I was meant to be, no matter what it took. Kakashi, the 23-year-old prodigy, had grounded my soaring ambitions with ruthless efficiency. There had been no second chance. My dream of becoming a respected jonin had been shattered, and I had been sent back to the academy, my pride wounded deeply. I had braced myself for another year of training and review, hoping for a new team assignment. But things didn't go as I had planned. I was placed in the Shinobi Reserve Program, an obscure initiative meant to give a second chance to those who failed to pass the standard academy. This program, initiated by the Naruto Hokage, sought to produce Chunin-level shinobi and kunoichi through an intense, accelerated training regimen. The program was born out of necessity when it was found that less than half of all academy graduates were approved by their jonin instructors. The village couldn't afford such inefficiency, and thus, the reserve program was established to address this gap. The reserve program was designed to be a rigorous boot camp, cramming years of training into a much shorter period. It was a grueling process, but one that promised to mold us into capable shinobi. It was clear from the outset that this was not the prestigious path I had dreamed of, but it was my only option to remain a part of the shinobi world. The program was challenging, pushing us to our limits daily. We were expected to master the same techniques and skills as our peers in the regular academy, but in a fraction of the time. The pressure was immense, but it only fueled my determination. I couldn't afford to fail again. I had to prove to myself and to everyone else that I was capable of more. The Naruto Hokage had created this program because he understood that a village couldn't function with only a handful of elite shinobi. The Reserve Corps was the backbone of Konoha's military strength, ensuring that the village had enough trained shinobi to handle its myriad of missions and responsibilities. It was a pragmatic solution to a critical problem, even if it wasn't the path to glory. The program's graduates were typically assigned to less glamorous roles, often relegated to support missions rather than frontline combat. They were the unsung heroes, the ones who kept the village running smoothly from the shadows. It was a hard reality to accept, knowing that my chances of becoming a jonin were slim. The prestigious rank was reserved for those who had been chosen by the elite jonin instructors, a mark of distinction that seemed forever out of my reach. I knew the Reserve Corps were the backbone of the village, performing essential but often overlooked duties. They kept the village running smoothly, but their contributions went largely unnoticed. They were underpaid and undervalued, their hard work taken for granted. It seems so unfair that 70% of Konoha's shinobi force comprised the Reserve Corps, yet they received so little in return. The main Corps shinobi got the best training, missions, and pay. They were taught about politics and how to climb the ranks, groomed for leadership roles. They were the ones who became legends, like the Sannin and Kakashi. All of it was a testament to my resolve to rise above my circumstances, no matter how daunting the journey ahead. Entering the program, I knew that my dream of becoming a Jonin was nearly impossible. Graduates of the reserve program could never achieve the rank of Jonin. That title was reserved almost exclusively for the elite. Only by becoming an ANBU captain or receiving a field promotion from the Hokage could a reserve graduate break this barrier. Both were next to impossibilities for a person like me. I threw myself into the accelerated training with the same relentless drive that had defined my entire life. While I wasn't in class, I was training in my clearing, drilling every skill and technique I could. I had to prove myself, not just to others, but to myself. Every day was a battle to reclaim my lost dream, to turn what seemed like a dead end into a new path. Every day of the next year was a blur of relentless training and study. From dawn until 9 in the morning, I trained my body physically, working on my taijutsu katas. After a modest lunch break, I focused on chakra control and basic hand seals. These often overlooked fundamentals were crucial. I was meticulous, a perfectionist at heart, determined not to be undone by anything simple. Evening brought time for ninjutsu practice. I didn't just want to perform jutsu. I wanted to understand and master them. My goal was to dissect every technique, to modify and perfect it until it was uniquely mine. This meant I knew fewer jutsu than some, but those I did know I had mastered completely. By nightfall, I retreated to my small makeshift house. Dinner was followed by meditation and jinjutsu study. Though I couldn't practice jinjutsu alone, I immersed myself in theory, preparing for the day I could apply what I had learned. All was not bad in the reserve program. There were some upsides to it. The access to better study materials was a boon I can never forget. While it wasn't as good as what the elite students had, the old shinobi manuals from the Naruto Hokage were a treasure trove. These manuals, filled with detailed techniques and strategies, were invaluable for someone like me who was eager to learn and improve. The knowledge they contained was far more advanced than the simpler books used in the regular academy. The reserve program also had a dedicated library. It wasn't much compared to the extensive clan libraries or the well-stocked Konoha Shinobi library, but it was a significant upgrade from the academy's meager collection. The reserve library had a range of scrolls and books on various jutsu, taijutsu forms, and historical battles. It provided a wealth of information that I couldn't have accessed otherwise. I spent countless hours in that library, poring over scrolls and absorbing every bit of knowledge I could. The library offered me a glimpse into the broader world of shinobi arts, helping me expand my understanding and refine my skills. I found books on advanced chakra control techniques, detailed diagrams of complex jutsus, and historical accounts of legendary battles. These resources allowed me to push my limits and strive for excellence, even in the face of adversity. For example, I learned about advanced chakra control techniques that went beyond the basics taught at the academy. There were detailed instructions on exercises to improve chakra flow and precision, techniques essential for mastering more complex jutsus. I also discovered scrolls detailing the elemental nature transformations, giving me insights into how to refine and control elemental chakra. The library also housed old manuals on taijutsu, with illustrations and descriptions of advanced combat techniques. These manuals were relics of the past, but contained timeless knowledge that helped me enhance my physical combat skills. I found techniques that focused on speed, agility, and precision, elements that complemented my natural abilities. There were historical records, too, detailing famous battles and strategies used by legendary shinobi. These accounts were more than just stories. They were lessons in tactics and strategy, showing me how to think several steps ahead in combat. Understanding the minds of great tacticians like the Naruto Hokage gave me a strategic edge that went beyond mere physical prowess. Though the reserve program was demanding and often grueling, the access to these resources made it worthwhile. They were crucial in my development, helping me bridge the gap between my current state and the shinobi I aspired to become. The old manuals and the modest library were tools that fueled my ambition and honed my skills, giving me hope and purpose amidst the challenges I faced. Today was the day of my graduation from the reserve program. The final exam was scheduled for 9 a.m., and all of the potential graduates were supposed to meet at 8:45 at the entrance to Training Ground 44, known to many as the Forest of Death. As I sat there, my mind a whirlwind of thoughts, I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of injustice. The disparity between the main corps and the reserve corps was staggering. The main corps shinobi were given every opportunity to succeed and shine, while the reserve corps were left to toil in obscurity. The main corps shinobi received the best missions and the highest pay. They were the elite, the ones who were groomed for leadership roles and high-ranking positions. They were taught about politics and how to navigate the complex power structures within the village. They were given every tool they needed to climb the ranks and become influential figures. In contrast, the Reserve Corps shinobi were the workhorses of the village. They performed the essential but mundane tasks that kept the village running smoothly. They were the ones who did the dirty work, the ones who were sent on the most dangerous and thankless missions. And yet, they were paid less, recognized less, and given fewer opportunities for advancement. I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of frustration. It seemed so unfair that the system was stacked against those who worked the hardest. The Reserve Corps were the backbone of the village, and yet they were treated like second-class citizens. It was a harsh reality, and one that I was now facing head-on. As I sat there, my mind racing with thoughts and doubts, I couldn't help but feel my belief in myself waver. Was I really cut out for this life? Could I ever achieve my dreams? Or was I destined to remain in the shadows? For the first time, I felt my confidence crumble. The path ahead seemed more uncertain than ever. I had always thought that hard work and determination would be enough, but now I wasn't so sure. What if I never make it? I whispered into the empty room. The silence that followed was deafening. The uncertainty gnawed at me, filling me with a sense of helplessness. I had faced many challenges before, but this felt different. The stakes were higher, and the consequences more severe. Despite my doubts, a small part of me refused to give up. It whispered that this was just a setback, that I could find a way to overcome it. But for now, that voice was faint, nearly drowned out by the overwhelming sense of failure and uncertainty. I lay down on my bed, staring up at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come easily tonight, but I knew I had to try. Tomorrow was a new day, and I would need all the strength I could muster to face whatever came next. The weight of my failure pressed down on me, but I knew that I couldn't let it crush me. I had to find a way to keep going, to keep fighting. Even if my path was uncertain, I had to believe that I could find my way. Your questions and observations are spot on. The absence of Jiraiya and the neglect of Naruto by those close to his parents are part of the core themes of politics, neglect, and a few surprises. Jiraiya's absence. In this story, Jiraiya is dealing with other pressing matters that kept him away. This might seem like a convenient plot device, but it adds to the sense of Naruto being overlooked by everyone who should have cared for him. There will be surprises regarding Jiraiya's reasons for staying away, which might not always paint him in a good light. Kushina's role in this story is very different from the original. Kakashi's role. Kakashi's seeming neglect of Naruto is also intentional. However, his reasons are more innocent and flimsy, involving bit of village politics. Response to. I appreciate you pointing out these discrepancies, but they are intentional portrayals. I can't reveal all due to spoilers, but here's how I've addressed a few of them. Konohamaru's age. In this alternate universe, timelines and character ages have been adjusted for narrative purposes. Konohamaru is born at the time of the Kyuubi attack, exactly 2 days prior, making it plausible for Minato to choose him as the Jinchuriki. Konohamaru's mother's lineage will also be explored, but he won't secretly be an Uzumaki. Naruto's birth and the attack. The story hinges on Naruto being 2 years old during the attack. The attack still happens because, in this universe, Obito weakened the seal on Kushina during her second pregnancy, leading to Kurama's release. This divergence creates a unique set of circumstances for the story to unfold. Furthermore, the Konoha 12 will be of Konohamaru's age as in canon. Naruto is simply 2.5 years older than in the original. Response to God of Wind 200. As Naruto delves into sealing techniques, integrating his storm release into a weapon like an axe named Stormbreaker would be a fascinating plot development. It would not only pay homage to his heritage, but also symbolize his mastery over his unique abilities. However, I have a vision for this story with unique weapons that Naruto will use, which are already planned and penned. Thank you for the suggestion. Author's note: this is a comparatively big chapter than the previous ones. Let me know how you feel about the story. Thanks for the comments. Happy reading. Naruto's POV. The morning of the qualification test was crisp and clear, a stark contrast to the storm of thoughts raging in my mind. I made my way to Training Ground 44, the notorious Forest of Death, my heart pounding with anticipation and anxiety. This was it, the moment that would determine my future in the shinobi world. The air was thick with the tension of my fellow candidates, each of us knowing that our performance today would shape our destinies. As I approached the entrance to the training ground, I saw Elder Hamura standing on a raised platform, flanked by several high-ranking shinobi. His presence commanded attention, and the murmurs of the gathered candidates quieted as he raised his hand for silence. Elder Hamura was a formidable figure in Konoha's politics and ruling. A former member of Team Tobirama, he was one of the few remaining shinobi who had trained directly under the second Hokage. His strategic mind and vast knowledge of jutsu made him an invaluable asset to the village. As an advisor and closest friend to the current Hokage, his influence and experience were unparalleled. Hamura was known for his stern demeanor and no-nonsense approach, traits that had earned him both respect and fear among the ranks. He was probably the highest-ranking shinobi I had seen up close, except for the one time I caught a glimpse of the Hokage during the Academy initiation ceremony. Seeing him here underscored a sense of recognition and gravity of the occasion, reminding us all of the importance of the path we were about to embark on. "Welcome, future shinobi of Konoha," Elder Hamura began, his voice carrying a weight of authority and tradition. "Today, you stand on the brink of your futures. The Reserve Corps may not have the glamour of the main corps, but you're the fulcrum that will support Konoha in its times of need. Your roles are essential, your duties critical. You will go out there and fight for Konoha, ensuring its stability and safety." His words stirred something deep within me. Despite the harsh realities of the Reserve Corps, there was a sense of purpose in his speech. We were the unsung heroes, the silent guardians. But the truth was, not all of us would find glory or even recognition. "This test will determine your path within the Reserve Corps," Elder Hamura continued. "For those who excel, there are opportunities to specialize. Those with a talent for Fuinjutsu may be taken in by the Barrier Corps. Some of you might become assistants to high-ranking officials, learning the intricacies of our village's operations. And then, there is the Genin Reserve Corps, those who show exceptional promise and may one day become Chunin." The Genin Reserve Corps. That was the group I aimed for. It was the highest honor within our ranks, the closest we could get to true recognition. To fall short of that meant becoming a menial shinobi, performing the most basic tasks with little hope for advancement. The thought of being stuck in such a role was almost unbearable. If I didn't qualify, then I wouldn't be able to become a Chunin, the highest rank attainable within the reserve. Elder Hamura's speech ended, and we were directed to our starting points within the forest. The exam was about to begin, and my nerves were a mix of fear and determination. As I stood at the edge of the forest, I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what lay ahead. The test was divided into several phases, each designed to evaluate different aspects of our abilities. The first phase was a survival exercise, navigating through the dense, dangerous terrain of the Forest of Death while avoiding traps and completing specific objectives. It was a test of our endurance, resourcefulness, and ability to think under pressure. As I plunged into the forest, the canopy above swallowed the sunlight, casting everything in a dim, eerie glow. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and foliage. Every rustle of leaves or snap of a twig set my nerves on edge. I moved cautiously, my senses heightened, aware that danger could be lurking behind every tree and bush. The Forest of Death was infamous for a reason. Created by the first Hokage, Hashirama Senju, it was home to a variety of odd and terrifying creatures, many of which were far larger and more dangerous than anything found outside its boundaries. These creatures, infused with some odd chakra, were akin to the legendary summons, but different in many ways. Some whispered that they were failed experiments of Tobirama Senju. Some said these were remnants of an ancient time. My limited knowledge and resources couldn't fully explain the mysteries of this forest, but I knew enough to understand that it was a place where only the strong survived. The towering trees and dense undergrowth hid these beasts, making every step a gamble between life and death. In the main Corps' Chunin exams, candidates were given a much safer section of the forest to navigate, one devoid of the most deadly traps and creatures. Their path was challenging but manageable, designed to test their skills without overwhelming them. For us in the Reserve Corps, there were no such concessions. The forest was riddled with traps and tests, each more lethal than the last. Death traps in the literal sense were scattered throughout, and the mortality rate for this test was alarmingly high. Shinobi who failed often went missing or were found dead, victims of the forest's relentless dangers. The stakes were exponentially higher for us, a stark reminder that we were seen as expendable compared to the elite main corps. As I ventured deeper into the forest, these harsh realities weighed heavily on my mind. The oppressive atmosphere seemed to close in around me, each step a reminder of the peril I faced. Yet, amidst the fear and uncertainty, a spark of determination burned within me. This was my chance to prove myself, to show that I was more than just a failed graduate. I steeled myself, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to survive and excel against all odds. The first objective was to locate a specific plant used in medical jutsu and bring it back to the designated checkpoint. It sounded simple, but the forest was vast and filled with hazards. I kept my eyes peeled, scanning the underbrush for any sign of the plant. My training had taught me to be meticulous, to pay attention to details, and that training was paying off now. After what felt like hours of searching, I finally spotted the distinctive leaves of the plant I was looking for. Its vibrant green color stood out amidst the darker foliage. Carefully, I dug it up, making sure not to damage the roots. Just as I was about to stand up, I heard a low growl behind me. My heart skipped a beat as I slowly turned to see a grotesque, large creature emerging from the shadows. It was unlike any animal I'd seen before. Its body was covered in thick, mottled hide, with eyes that glowed faintly with internal chakra. This wasn't just a wild boar. It was something more dangerous, a mutation born from the forest's unique environment. This was it, the real test. I couldn't afford to panic. Remembering my training, I slowly backed away, keeping my eyes on the creature. It pawed the ground, snorting aggressively, its breath visible in the cold air. I knew that any sudden movement could trigger an attack. Reaching into my pouch, I pulled out a kunai, ready to defend myself if necessary. The creature charged, and I sprang into action. Using my agility, I dodged to the side, narrowly avoiding its tusks. It was faster than I expected, its movements almost blurring due to the chakra flowing through its body. I slashed with the kunai, aiming for its flank, but its hide was tough and resistant. My blade barely made a scratch. As the fight continued, I relied on the skills I had honed over the past 6 months. Each move was deliberate, a testament to my rigorous training. I remembered the advanced chakra control techniques I had practiced, focusing my energy to increase my speed and reaction time. The creature lunged again, and I jumped, using the trees to gain height and a better vantage point. I formed the necessary hand signs and took a deep breath. Water style, gunshot, I shouted, launching a high-powered water bullet at the creature. The water struck it squarely, staggering it momentarily. This was the technique I had used against Kakashi, now refined and more powerful. The creature shook off the attack, but I could see that it was disoriented. Seizing the opportunity, I dropped down and slashed at its legs, aiming for the joints. My kunai found its mark, cutting through the tough hide and drawing blood. The creature roared in pain, thrashing wildly. I dodged its erratic movements, using my smaller size and agility to my advantage. As the creature recovered and charged again, I quickly formed another set of hand signs. Earth style, earth wall, I called out, slamming my hands on the ground. A wall of earth rose up between me and the creature, momentarily blocking its path. The beast collided with the wall, buying me precious seconds to plan my next move. Realizing the creature's incredible resilience, I decided to use another jutsu to gain the upper hand. I focused my chakra into my legs and dashed to a nearby stream, quickly gathering water into my hands. Water style, wild water wave, I shouted, releasing a torrent of water from my mouth. The force of the water pushed the creature back, giving me a brief respite. With the creature struggling to regain its footing, I took advantage of its vulnerability. Channeling my chakra, I performed a swift series of hand signs. Water style, water clone jutsu. I created a water clone to distract the creature, allowing me to circle around and find a weak spot. As my water clone engaged the creature, I moved swiftly and silently. When the creature turned to strike my clone, I lunged forward, aiming my kunai at its exposed side. The blade pierced its hide, and the creature let out a final, pained roar before collapsing to the ground. Breathing heavily, I clutched the plant tightly and made my way to the checkpoint. The first phase was over, but there were still more challenges ahead. As I navigated through the forest, I encountered several traps set by Konoha's finest. These traps range from hidden pitfalls to explosive tags cleverly concealed among the foliage. Each one tested my awareness and reflexes. At one point, I noticed a slight glint on the ground, an almost invisible wire. I carefully traced its path to a nearby tree, where an explosive tag was hidden. I disarmed the trap using the techniques I had learned from the old shinobi manuals in the reserve library, appreciating the wealth of knowledge they had provided. Another time, I felt the ground give way slightly under my foot and quickly leapt back, avoiding a pitfall that had been expertly camouflaged with leaves and branches. The forest was alive with danger, but I moved with a newfound confidence. My proficiency in water manipulation allowed me to create makeshift bridges over ravines and put out small fires that bar my path. Each obstacle I overcame was a testament to the skills I had developed and the determination that drove me. Finally, as I approached the checkpoint, I felt a sense of accomplishment. I had survived the forest of death, utilizing every ounce of training and knowledge I possessed. But I knew that this was only the beginning. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, and I needed to stay focused and keep pushing forward. The reserve corps might not offer the glory of the main corps, but I was determined to prove my worth and carve out a place for myself in the world of shinobi. The next phase involved teamwork. We were grouped randomly with other candidates and given a series of tasks that required cooperation and coordination. This was a critical part of the test, as it assessed our ability to work as a unit, a skill essential for any shinobi. At the checkpoint, each candidate was assigned a number and grouped through a lottery system. I found myself paired with two older boys, both around 15 years old. They were familiar faces from the reserve program, but not ones I had interacted with much. Their names were Hiro and Taro. Hiro was a below-average student, only proficient in the academy's basic 3 jutsu. Taro was slightly better, with a decent grasp of taijutsu and a couple of D to C level earth-style jutsu, but all in all, they were weak. If we came under attack, we would likely fall. I drew the short end of the stick by getting arguably the weakest pair. We received the white scroll, a scroll that alone held no value but was a key part of the challenge. To pass, We needed to collect both the blue and red scrolls from other teams. I quickly realized that our success would hinge on cunning and strategy rather than brute strength. All right, I began. We need to use what we've got. Hiro, Taro, you both are going to be our bait. They looked at me with a mix of skepticism and resignation, but nodded. They knew as well as I did that our chances were slim without a solid plan. Our first task was to find the other teams and observe them. We moved quietly through the forest, staying out of sight. I used my training to scout ahead, marking potential ambush points and noting the movements of our targets. After a few hours, we spotted a team resting by a small clearing. They had the red scroll, clearly visible as one of them was inspecting it. I signaled Hiro and Taro to follow me. Here's the plan, I whispered. Taro, use your Earth Jutsu to create a distraction. Hiro, you'll use the basic transformation jutsu to make yourself look like one of them. When they're distracted, I'll sneak in and grab the scroll. While scouting the area, I noticed a large, sluggish mud swamp in an elevated area. Since Taro knew Doton, Doryu, Taiga, Earth Release, Earth Flow River, albeit in its weakest form, using it here would make it seem like a truly powerful shinobi was attacking, easily distracting them. Taro nodded and began forming the necessary hand signs. Doton, Doryu Taiga, he muttered, creating a river of mud that flowed towards the enemy team. The sudden attack threw them into disarray, exactly as planned. Hiro transformed into one of their teammates and ran into the fray, shouting and adding to the confusion. Meanwhile, I used the chaos to slip into their camp, my footsteps silent and movement swift. My heart pounded as I snatched the red scroll from where it lay, immediately retreating into the shadows. Retreat. I signaled to Hiro and Taro. They broke off their attacks and followed me back into the forest. We regrouped at a safe distance, catching our breath and checking our spoils. We got it, I said, holding up the red scroll. Hiro and Taro looked relieved, their earlier skepticism replaced by a sense of accomplishment. One down, one to go, I continued, stashing the scrolls safely. Let's move quickly and find the blue scroll. We moved cautiously, avoiding potential traps and keeping an eye out for other teams. After some time, we found another group resting near a rocky outcrop. They seemed more alert and better prepared than the previous team, so a direct attack was out of the question. I assessed the situation and formulated a new plan. Hiro, you're going to be our lookout. Taro, you and I will set up an ambush here. I pointed to a narrow path they were likely to take. When they get close, we'll attack and create enough confusion to snatch the scroll. We set up quickly, Taro using his Earth Jutsu to create makeshift barriers and pitfalls along the path. I positioned myself in a tree, hidden from view but with a clear line of sight. Hiro climbed a nearby hill, ready to signal us when the team approached. Minutes felt like hours, but eventually Hiro's signal came. The team was approaching, just as we had hoped. As they reached the ambush point, Taro activated his traps. Doton, Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu, Earth Release, double suicide decapitation technique, he called out, pulling one of the enemies into the ground up to their neck. The sudden attack threw them into disarray. I sprang into action, leaping from the tree and landing amidst the chaos. The element of surprise was on our side. I moved swiftly, avoiding the enemy's attacks while targeting the one carrying the blue scroll. A quick exchange of blows and a well-placed kick sent him stumbling, the scroll slipping from his grasp. I grabbed it and signaled for a retreat. We fell back, regrouping at a prearranged spot. The adrenaline was still pumping through my veins, but we had done it. We now had all 3 scrolls. Good job, everyone, I said, handing the scrolls to Hiro and Taro for safekeeping. Let's get these to the checkpoint. The path back was tense, every rustle in the forest setting us on edge. But we moved quickly and cautiously, avoiding any unnecessary confrontations. When we finally reached the checkpoint, the relief was palpable. We had passed the teamwork phase despite our initial disadvantages. I felt a mix of exhaustion and satisfaction. We had worked together, using our skills and strategy to overcome the challenges. This phase was just one part of the test, but it was a crucial one. We had proven our ability to cooperate and think on our feet, qualities essential for any shinobi. As we awaited the next phase, I couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. We were one step closer to achieving our goals. The final phase of the test was a one-on-one combat assessment. It was designed to evaluate our individual combat skills and tactical thinking. Each candidate would face an instructor in a controlled battle, and our performance would be judged on technique, creativity, and adaptability. The final phase of the test was about to begin. We had passed the initial survival exercise and the teamwork challenge, but now came the most intense and demanding part. The third task would push us to our limits, testing everything we had learned in the past 6 months. As we gathered at the designated area, I felt the weight of anticipation. This was it, the culmination of all our training and effort. The proctors for this phase were some of the Chunin, known for their skill and experience. Leading them was the head of the Inuzuka clan, a formidable shinobi whose expertise and stern demeanor set the tone for what lay ahead. "Welcome to the final phase," the Inuzuka clan had announced, his voice carrying authority and a hint of menace. "This test will determine your future roles within the Reserve Corps. Give it everything you have." As I waited for my turn, I couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nerves. This was my chance to prove myself, to show that I had what it took to be a shinobi of Konoha. When my name was called, I stepped into the arena, my heart pounding in my chest. Facing me was Gecko Hate, a seasoned Chunin, his expression calm and focused. The signal to begin was given, and I immediately sprang into action. I knew that brute force alone wouldn't win this fight. I had to be smart, use my skills and instincts to outmaneuver my opponent. Gecko Hate's POV. The signal to begin was given, and Naruto immediately sprang into action. I watched with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Instead of charging head-on, he performed a series of rapid hand signs. "Water clone jutsu. Mizu Bunshin no jutsu," he called out, and suddenly 3 identical clones made of water appeared beside him. Impressive, I thought, acknowledging his proficiency in using a more advanced clone technique. The 4 Narutos moved in unison, flanking me from different angles. As they closed the distance, Naruto threw shuriken to keep me off balance. I deflected them with ease using my sword, but I couldn't help but be surprised at his strategic use of water clones. The chakra cost for maintaining water clones was significant, and yet he showed no signs of strain. This boy is something else, I thought, wondering if I was dealing with a genin or someone more skilled. Drawing upon his training, Naruto combined taijutsu and ninjutsu seamlessly. He delivered a flurry of punches and kicks, augmented by bursts of chakra to increase his speed and power. The water clones mirrored his movements, adding to the complexity of the attack. I countered expertly, blocking his strikes with my sword and retaliating with swift, precise blows. He dodged and parried, his movements fluid and calculated. I focused on the clones first, knowing they could become a nuisance. My sword sliced through one of the water clones, dispersing it in a splash. The second clone followed, but not before it managed to land a hit, sending a surprising jolt of pain through my side. This kid really trained, I realized, feeling a mix of irritation and respect. Despite the unexpected sting from the clone, I couldn't let it show. "Not bad," I remarked, my voice steady. "But let's see how you handle this." I leapt back, forming hand signs at an incredible speed. Earth style, earth wall, Doton Doria He. A wall of earth erupted from the ground, separating us. I didn't hesitate, using the wall as cover to launch my next move. Water style, gunshot, Suetun, Tepidama. He unleashed a water bullet, aiming for a weak spot in the wall. The impact created an opening, and he darted through, using the momentum to deliver a powerful kick. I blocked with my sword, but the force pushed me back, giving him a momentary advantage. Seizing the opportunity, he formed more hand signs and threw a barrage of shuriken, each one precisely aimed. I deflected them with a series of quick, precise slashes from my sword, but one managed to graze my arm, drawing a thin line of blood. Surprising, I thought, feeling a twinge of irritation. This boy is better than he looks. Impressive, I said, my eyes narrowing. But you're not the only one with tricks. Before he could react, I performed a rapid series of hand signs. Jinjutsu, false place technique, kokoi no jutsu. The surroundings shifted, and I saw the confusion on his face as the landscape warped around him. He took a deep breath, focusing his chakra to break the illusion. The moment he regained his bearings, I was upon him, my sword flashing in the dim light. He narrowly avoided the strike, countering with a swift kick to my midsection. I staggered, and he used the opening to perform another jutsu. Sealing jutsu, 4 black marks. Finjutsu, suru no jotsu kurosuru. He attempted to seal my movements, but I countered with a burst of chakra, breaking free before the seal could take hold. The fight pushed him to his limits, a blur of strikes, counters, and jutsu. He drew upon everything he had learned, employing feints and misdirection to keep me on my toes. Despite my superior experience, he managed to hold his own, landing a few solid hits and evading my more powerful attacks. His taijutsu, though unrefined, showed promise and a level of training that was commendable. Finally, he decided to use one last technique. Channeling his chakra, he executed a powerful water technique. Water style, water severing wave. Suetun, Mizu Rappa, a sharp blade of water shot from the ground, aiming directly at me. I dodged, but he followed up with another water style, gunshot. Suetun, Tepidama, a powerful burst of water hit me, forcing me to defend myself with an earth barrier. The match was called to an end, both of us breathing heavily, our bodies aching from the exertion. The Inuzuka clan head stepped forward, his gaze appraising. "Well done," he said, a hint of a smile on his lips. "You've shown great skill." As the candidates gathered for the final results, Elder Hamura addressed them once more. "You have all shown great courage and determination today. Regardless of the outcome, know that you are valued members of our village. The Reserve Corps is a vital part of Konoha's strength, and each of you plays a crucial role in our future." The names of those who excelled were called, and Naruto held his breath, hoping to hear his name among them. This test would determine where they would be placed within the Reserve Corps, whether they would join the Barrier Corps, become assistants, or be part of the esteemed Genin Reserve Corps. When Naruto's name was called, I saw the brief surge of relief in his eyes. He had made it into the Genin Reserve Corps, the highest rank achievable in the reserve. For a brief moment, his emotions flickered on his face, showing a flash of relief before he composed himself, returning to a neutral expression. It was unsettling to see such emotional control in someone so young, reminiscent of prodigies like Itachi Uchiha. This kid was not just skilled. He was scarily good and potentially dangerous. Unlike Itachi, who at a young age acted as if he wore a mask of emotionless composure, Naruto actively controlled what he projected. Itachi's demeanor often seemed detached, a facade over his true feelings. In contrast, Naruto's ability to mask his true emotions, revealing only what he wanted others to see, was a deliberate and impressive display of self-control. This level of emotional regulation in a child his age was both impressive and disconcerting. Naruto's lack of self-awareness about his true potential made him a potential pawn in the hands of those more powerful. He was an orphan, without the guidance or understanding of the power he held. It was saddening to think that someone so talented could be manipulated so easily because he didn't realize his own significance. He was a raw talent, a diamond in the rough, and it was clear that his future held both incredible promise and significant danger. The Reserve Boot Camp qualification test had tested every aspect of their abilities, pushing them to their limits and beyond. It was a harsh reminder of the realities of the shinobi world, but also a testament to their resilience and determination. I knew that they still had a long way to go, but with each step, they were getting closer to becoming the shinobi they were meant to be. Asterisk asterisk Naruto's POV asterisk asterisk. I can hardly believe it. After all the struggles and the intense training, I've finally become a full-fledged genin. Even without a Jonin sensei, I can take on missions now. It's been 7 months since the boot camp exams, and I'm genuinely happy with the progress my life has taken. Initially, I was only assigned D-rank missions. These tasks were often mundane and involve a lot of chores around the village. Despite their simplicity, I worked tirelessly, taking on as many missions as I could from the moment the mission office opened in the morning until the last minute before it closed. I squeezed every possible moment to maximize my earnings and experience. At first, I tried to balance training and missions simultaneously, but it didn't yield the results I had hoped for. I soon realized that to make real progress, I needed to integrate my training into the tasks I performed. This approach not only made the missions more engaging, but also allowed me to improve my skills creatively. For instance, while painting fences or buildings, I used chakra control to stick to vertical walls, enhancing my precision and stamina. It turned out to be a great way to practice maintaining chakra flow under different conditions. Similarly, cleaning rivers became an exercise in water manipulation. I used water walking and created clones to help clear debris from the surface. For underwater tasks, I focused on projection and propulsion techniques to clean riverbeds, honing my ability to move and work efficiently underwater. Heavy cargo lifting and transportation were perfect for building physical strength. I carried extremely heavy loads, challenging my muscles and testing my endurance. Each mission became a training session in disguise, allowing me to push my limits in creative ways. Gardening and farming tasks provided an excellent opportunity to practice earth-based jutsu. Turning soil and planting seeds with basic earth manipulation techniques enhanced my control over earth chakra. I would subtly use my chakra to soften the earth, making planting easier and quicker. Every moment in the fields was a lesson in precision and patience. One particular mission involved repairing a section of the village wall that had been damaged in a recent storm. I saw this as a chance to practice more advanced earth manipulation techniques. Using Doton, IWA Fubuki, Earth Style, Rock Blizzard, I managed to create small rocks to fill the gaps, smoothing them out with controlled chakra bursts to solidify the wall. It was a challenging task, but it taught me a lot about the intricacies of earth manipulation and how to apply it practically. Looking after livestock or pets required a gentle touch and patience. I used these missions to practice calming techniques and improve my overall focus and chakra control, especially when dealing with anxious animals. I even experimented with Jinjutsu to calm or deter aggressive animals, weaving simple illusions to soothe them or guide them away from danger. This not only improved my Jinjutsu skills, but also taught me the importance of subtlety and care in handling living beings. My access to the library as a genin opened up new avenues for learning. I delved deeper into Fuinjutsu, a skill that fascinated me since the academy. The old shinobi manuals, now more accessible, were a treasure trove of knowledge. I practiced creating simple seals for storage and containment, gradually working my way up to more complex ones. One of my proudest achievements was mastering the basics of the four-symbol seal, Shisho Fuin. I started with simple scrolls, sealing and unsealing small objects like kunai and shuriken. As my proficiency grew, I experimented with sealing larger items and even trying out explosive tags in a controlled environment. Each success boosted my confidence and understanding of the delicate balance required in Fuinjutsu. I also spent time studying and practicing sealing techniques to enhance my combat readiness. I created small, portable barrier seals to protect myself during missions. These seals, though not as powerful as the ones used by more experienced shinobi, provided an extra layer of security and showcased my growing expertise in Fuinjutsu. Despite the challenges, these past 7 months have been some of the most fulfilling of my life. I've learned to see every task, no matter how small, as an opportunity to grow stronger. And with each mission completed, I get closer to my dream of becoming a truly powerful shinobi. The journey is long, but I am determined to make every step count. The time has been not just fulfilling, but also fun. My Fuinjutsu, sealing techniques, has grown in leaps and bounds, but I know it is still just a drop compared to the feats achieved by legendary geniuses like the 4th Hokage, Yondaime Hokage, the 2nd Hokage, Nidaime Hokage, or even Jiraiya of the Sannin. Yet, my progress in Fuinjutsu has given me a profound sense of accomplishment. Sealing techniques, in particular, have become a source of pride for me. Each new skill mastered feels like a step toward uncovering a hidden potential within me. Even though I am far from reaching the heights of the great shinobi who came before me, these small victories build my confidence and strengthen my resolve. Fuinjutsu, with its intricate balance and meticulous nature, challenges me in ways that fuel my determination. The satisfaction of successfully creating a seal or barrier reminds me that every bit of progress is significant. The journey is far from over, but each day brings new opportunities to improve. I'm not just becoming a stronger shinobi, I'm also discovering the depths of my potential. And that, more than anything, drives me to keep pushing forward, embracing every challenge that comes my way. By the end of the second month, I had managed to scrape together enough money to get my bunker back. Paying rent and having a roof over my head again felt like a significant achievement, but I couldn't ignore the slight tinge of bitterness that came with it. The experience had been rough, and I felt a bit jaded. Every day, I would wait in the mission lounge, hoping for any chunin short of one member for a C-rank mission to pick me. But at 7 years old, no one chose me. 2 months ago, an unexpected opportunity arose. Mizuki, a kind friend I made at the chunin desk, always treated me kindly. He even took me out for ramen once, a rare treat that I relished. Mizuki had a gentle way about him, though he never showed too much affection in front of others. On that day, the eternal Genin Mariboshi Kosuka approached me. Known for his extensive experience and unwavering dedication, Kosuka was a respected figure in the Reserve Corps. I was shocked and flabbergasted when he asked if I was free for the next 2 days for a scroll delivery mission. I looked around the lounge, expecting to see others more qualified or older than me. But to my surprise, the room was nearly empty. Without hesitation, I accepted his offer with a rare, genuine smile and a respectful bow. I had heard whispers about his past and his reputation in the Reserve Corps. As the chief of the Reserve Corps and one of the most in-demand shinobi in the village, his age was close to that of the Sandaime Hokage. This was an incredible opportunity. Later, I asked Mizuki why the lounge had been so empty that day. He explained that it was the Kyubi festival and most shinobi had gone to celebrate. There had been a sudden influx of higher-ranked missions, so by 10 a.m., most of them had already been dispatched. In the flow of time, I had forgotten it was that time of the year and silently thanked my lucky stars for the unexpected opportunity. The mission with Mariboshi Kosuka was not particularly eventful. He didn't say much until we got our clearance for the mission and crossed the walls of Konoha. As we sat facing each other on one of the thick branches of the trees surrounding the village, he smiled kindly and introduced himself, apologizing for not doing so earlier when he asked me to join the mission. I apologize for not introducing myself earlier. My name is Mariboshi Kosuka, he said with a warm smile. I was taken aback. This man needed no introduction. No problem, Kosuka-sama. It's an honor for me to work with a shinobi of your caliber, I replied, trying to mask my surprise. I am Naruto Uzumaki. Kosuka chuckled softly. There's no need for such formalities, Naruto. You can call me Kosuka. I hesitated, feeling a bit awkward. Kosuka-san? He laughed again. Just Kosuka. We're comrades on this mission, after all. We continued our journey in a comfortable silence for a while, then started making small talk. I was shocked to learn that the pan on his back was not some high-tech weapon, but a cooking utensil. I cook quite a bit, Kosuke explained. This pan has seen more use in the kitchen than in battle, but it has also served as a weapon more times than I can count. I couldn't help but marvel at the versatility and resourcefulness of this seasoned shinobi. You've used it in fights? I asked wide-eyed. Kosuke nodded. Yes, in a pinch, anything can become a weapon. But it's also a reminder that not all battles are fought with violence. As we continued, he began to share more about his skills. I told him about my training and how I incorporated chakra control into everyday tasks. I've been working hard on my taijutsu and water manipulation techniques, I said. I even use chakra control for chores to improve my skills. Kosuke listened intently, nodding with approval. That's a smart way to train. Every little bit helps. Later, as the sun began to set, Kosuke suggested we set up camp for the night. I'll teach you some basics of camping, he said. It's an essential skill for any shinobi. I watched in awe as Kosuke efficiently pitched a tent, explaining each step as he went. First, you need to find a good spot, flat ground, away from animal trails or potential water runoff, he explained. I followed his instructions, trying to mirror his movements. His hands moved with practiced ease, and soon we had a small but sturdy tent ready for the night. Next, he showed me how to build a campfire. Gather dry wood and kindling, he instructed. Stack them like this. He demonstrated, creating a neat pile that quickly ignited with a spark of chakra. The fire crackled warmly, and I felt a sense of accomplishment. As the fire burned, Kosuke pulled out his cooking utensils. Now, let's prepare dinner, he said. I'll teach you how to cook a simple but hearty meal. He deftly chopped vegetables and meat, explaining each step. Always cut away from yourself, he cautioned. And make sure your knife is sharp. It's safer that way. Kosuke also explained the importance of keeping a low profile. Smoke can give away our position to enemy ninja, he said. We need to minimize it. I thought of using fuinjutsu, sealing techniques, to contain the smoke, but Kosuke had another idea. Wind manipulation could help, he mentioned, but since neither of us knows any wind jutsu, we'll use a different method. He set up a makeshift chimney using a hollow log and some stones to direct the smoke away from our campsite, dispersing it harmlessly into the air. Just in case, Kosuke suggested we cook and eat our food a bit away from our tent. We'll set up traps around the cooking area to catch or deter any animals or enemy shinobi attracted by the smell, he explained. After cooking, we used herbs to mask the scent of our camp, blending it with the natural smells of the forest. Watching Kosuke, I was amazed. No steps seemed paranoid in the ninja world. Every precaution was a potential lifesaver. The level of detail and creativity he applied to something as simple as cooking and setting up camp was astonishing. His methods ensured we stayed safe and undetected, and I marveled at his ingenuity. Kosuke's techniques highlighted the practical applications of shinobi skills in everyday tasks. He taught me how to think creatively and use my environment to my advantage, reinforcing the lesson that survival in the ninja world required constant vigilance and adaptability. Watching him effortlessly blend survival tactics with everyday activities, I realized that my understanding of creativity was quite limited. Kosuke's methods gave new meaning to the term, demonstrating how resourcefulness could turn the simplest actions into strategies for survival. He showed me how to gather dry wood and kindling, emphasizing the importance of choosing the right materials and arranging them in a way that minimized smoke. His improvised chimney, crafted from a hollow log and stones, directed the smoke away from our camp, a solution I would never have thought of on my own. His use of herbs to mask our scent and blend in with the natural environment was another eye-opener, revealing a depth of knowledge and experience that was both impressive and humbling. Every lesson Kosuke imparted was a revelation. He explained how even the act of cooking could be transformed into a strategic operation, with careful consideration given to location, smoke direction, and scent management. Setting traps around the cooking area to catch or deter potential threats was a concept that expanded my understanding of what it meant to be a shinobi. Kosuke's approach to every task, no matter how mundane, was meticulous and thoughtful. His ability to foresee potential dangers and plan accordingly was a testament to his experience and skill. Through his guidance, I learned that creativity in the ninja world wasn't just about inventing new jutsu or combat techniques. It was about using every available resource to ensure survival and success. My respect for Kosuke skyrocketed as I witnessed his ingenuity in action, and I realized that I still had much to learn about the true essence of being a shinobi. I tried my best to follow his instructions, though my cuts were far less precise. Kosuke didn't mind, offering gentle corrections and encouragement. As we cooked, he shared stories from his past missions, each one more incredible than the last. I felt like I was getting a glimpse into a world I had only ever dreamed of. When the meal was ready, I took my first bite and was immediately blown away. "This is amazing," I exclaimed, savoring the rich, savory flavors. Kosuke smiled. "Cooking is just like any other skill, Naruto. It takes practice and patience. But it's also about sharing and taking care of those around you." The following day, Kosuke continued to teach me various survival skills. He showed me how to hunt small game and fish, using Jinjutsu to calm or deter animals. Jinjutsu can be used for more than just combat, he explained. It can also help you survive in the wild. We practiced hunting techniques, and Kosuke demonstrated how to set traps and snares. "Always check your traps regularly," he advised, "and make sure they're well hidden." I marveled at his expertise, feeling grateful for the invaluable lessons. As we walked, I couldn't help but ask the question that had been on my mind since the mission began. "Kosuke, why did you choose me for this mission?" He looked thoughtful for a moment before answering. "It's a simple delivery mission, Naruto. Nothing too dangerous. But I wanted to meet and know how much the world has changed from the young shoots of Konoha. How our perspectives changed. I would appreciate it if you could indulge a boring old man." His words took me aback. I wasn't sure how to respond at first. "I'm no regular young child," I began slowly. "I might not be extraordinary in the way others are, but I only know about survival. I think a man of your experience knows way better than me." Kosuke's eyes softened. "You're right, Naruto. Survival teaches us a lot. But remember, there's more to being a shinobi than just surviving. It's about growing, learning, and finding strength in places you didn't know existed." Kosuke's words resonated deeply with me, leaving a lasting impression. At that moment, I thought I understood the wisdom he imparted, but it would be years later before I fully grasped the true gravity of his lessons. This mission, while not the most thrilling, was already proving to be one of the most insightful experiences of my life. As we continued our journey, I couldn't help but feel grateful for the opportunity to learn from someone as experienced and wise as Maraboshi Kosuke. His calm demeanor and practical wisdom transformed the mundane into the extraordinary, turning simple tasks into valuable lessons. His teachings were more than just survival skills. They were lessons in mindfulness, patience, and the importance of preparation. I realized that my understanding of creativity and strategy was still in its infancy. Kosuke's methods opened my eyes to a broader perspective, where even the simplest actions held significant strategic value. I felt a growing sense of respect and admiration for Kosuke. His ability to blend into the environment, to think creatively under pressure, and to remain calm and composed no matter the situation was awe-inspiring. He was not just a skilled shinobi. He was a master of his craft, and I was fortunate to learn from him. Looking back, I can see how these early lessons with Kosuke shaped my approach to being a shinobi. The mission might have seemed ordinary on the surface, but it was filled with profound insights and lessons that would stay with me forever. It was a reminder that sometimes the most unassuming experiences can be the most transformative, and that true wisdom often comes from the quiet, everyday moments that teach us how to live and survive with purpose and intent. After that initial mission, I found myself working with Kosuke on several more occasions. Each mission was a new opportunity to learn and grow. Kosuke continued to impart his wisdom, teaching me various skills that extended beyond mere survival. He showed me the importance of strategy, the value of patience, and the power of observation. Under his guidance, I began to see the world through a different lens, understanding that every detail, no matter how small, could be crucial. One particular mission with Kosuke stands out in my memory. It was a C-rank mission, and unlike our previous, more straightforward assignments, this one had an element of danger that I had not yet encountered. Our task was to deliver a confidential scroll to a small outpost near the border of the Land of Fire. The scroll contained vital information, and we were warned of slight potential threats from rogue, shinobi, and bandits. The mission started as usual, with Kosuke and I moving swiftly and cautiously through the forest. We kept to the shadows, avoiding well-trodden paths to minimize the risk of an ambush. Kosuke's experience was invaluable. He knew exactly where to step and how to move to remain undetected. I did my best to mimic his movements, learning from his every action. As we approached the border, the tension increased. Kosuke's demeanor remained calm, but I could sense his heightened alertness. It was then that we encountered our first obstacle. A group of bandits had set up a checkpoint, likely in hopes of intercepting valuable goods or information. Kosuke quickly assessed the situation and devised a plan. "Naruto, we'll need to create a diversion," he whispered. "I'll engage them head-on, drawing their attention. You take the scroll and find a way around. Deliver it to the outpost at all costs." As we observed the bandits, Kosuke's sharp eyes caught something unusual. Among the ragtag group of low-gen and level bandits was a sensor ninja, a surprising and unwelcome addition. This sensor wasn't supposed to be here according to our intelligence. It was clear that this was not the threat we had been forewarned about. It was something more. Kosuke's expression grew more serious. "This changes things," he murmured. "A sensor ninja complicates our plan. We'll need to be extra careful." I nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. The sensor ninja could detect our movements and alert the others, making a stealthy approach nearly impossible. Kosuke, ever the strategist, quickly adjusted our plan. "I'll take care of the sensor ninja first," he said. "Once he's out of the way, the rest will be easier to handle. Stay low and move quickly. If things go wrong, retreat and find another route." With a final nod, we split up. Kosuke moved with silent precision, closing in on the sensor ninja. I watched as he skillfully engaged the enemy, drawing their attention and disrupting their formation. Using the chaos to my advantage, I slipped past the bandits, sticking to the shadows and moving as quietly as possible. Despite the initial success, the sensor ninja quickly realized the diversion and began to scan the area for other intruders. I had to stay one step ahead, using every ounce of stealth and agility I had learned from Kosuke. I maneuvered through the dense forest, my heart pounding as I listened for any signs of pursuit. At one point, I encountered a lone bandit who had strayed from the group. As I approached, I realized this was no ordinary bandit. His demeanor was calm and confident, a stark contrast to the others. I could see the headband of the rogue village of Mizu slashed across his forehead. This was the bandit chief, a Chunin-level rogue ninja known as the Water Serpent, an entry in the bingo book marked as a B-rank missing nin. Drawing upon my training, I used a combination of taijutsu and ninjutsu to engage him. The fight was intense, far tougher than I had anticipated. He moved with fluidity and precision, his skills honed from countless battles. His nickname, the Water Serpent, was well-earned. His movements were as swift and unpredictable as a snake in water. I managed to land a few hits, but he retaliated with a force that left me reeling. My water manipulation techniques provided temporary barriers and distractions, but he cut through them with ease. I knew I had to outmaneuver him, but it was a daunting task. My mind raced, and my body trembled with fear and adrenaline. The rogue Chunin smirked, clearly enjoying the fight. "Is this all you've got, kid?" he taunted, his voice dripping with disdain. "You think you can stop me?" Summoning every ounce of courage, I continued to press the attack. My movements were more erratic, driven by desperation. I created water clones to distract him, but he dispatched them effortlessly. The battle seemed hopeless, and my strength was waning. In a desperate bid, I used a water manipulation technique to create a massive wave, hoping to overwhelm him. As he struggled to maintain his footing, I lunged forward, aiming to strike him down. Our clash was brutal, a whirlwind of strikes and counterstrikes. I managed to outmaneuver him just enough to get the upper hand, but not without sustaining injuries. His blade sliced through my arm, leaving a searing pain in its wake. With trembling hands and a racing heart, I finally saw an opening. Summoning all my strength, I delivered a decisive blow, my kunai finding its mark. The robed Chunin's eyes widened in shock and pain as he fell to the ground. Blood stained my hands, and the reality of what I had done began to sink in. I had taken a life for the first time. My body shook uncontrollably, my mind reeling from the gravity of my actions. The robed Chunin lay still, his life extinguished. I stared at my bloodied hands, the weight of my first kill bearing down on me. A wave of nausea washed over me, and I fought to keep my composure. This was the harsh reality of being a shinobi, a lesson I had learned in the most brutal way possible. Finally, I reached the outpost and delivered the scroll. The relief I felt was immense, but it was quickly overshadowed by concern for Kosuke. I waited anxiously, hoping for his safe return. After what felt like hours, he finally appeared, battered but victorious. His smile reassured me, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. We had completed the mission, and I had proven my worth as a shinobi. Kosuke took one look at me and immediately understood what had happened. He placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder, his eyes filled with understanding and compassion. "You did well, Naruto," he said softly. "It's never easy, but you did what you had to do." I nodded, my body still trembling from the ordeal. "It was him or me," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. Kosuke nodded. "That's right. And you survived. That's what matters." He paused, giving me a moment to collect myself. "Let's head back. You've done more than enough for today." As we made our way back to the village, the weight of what I had done began to settle in. The journey was far from over, but I had taken a significant step forward. The mission might have seemed ordinary on the surface, but it had been a profound and transformative experience. I had faced my fears, taken a life, and emerged stronger for it. The path of a shinobi was a harsh one, but I was determined to walk it, no matter the challenges ahead. This mission opened the floodgates for more challenging assignments. My reputation grew, and I began to receive more C-rank missions, often alongside Kosuke. Each mission was a new adventure, a new test of my skills and determination. With every success, I felt myself growing stronger and more confident. Chapter 7: Naruto's Introduction to the Path of Complete Surrender. Author's note: writing this chapter has been one of the toughest challenges I've faced, trying to capture the complex mix of emotions and deep philosophical ideas at play. Your thoughts and reflections on this chapter would mean a lot to me. They will not only help clear things up, but also make our storytelling journey even richer as we move forward. Thank you for your patience and for being part of this journey. A special thank you to my first patron. I truly appreciate your engagement. Chapter 11 is out. Am I patron? Response to reviews. Dragon Master 124. Thank you for your thoughtful review. You've raised some excellent points about Hiruzen's decisions and the potential consequences of Naruto's isolation. In this alternate universe, I wanted to explore the complexity of Hiruzen's choices and the impact they have on Naruto's development. At the same time, he won't be a character who did everything out of lack of choice. Your concerns about sealing jutsu and the role of the Uzumaki clan are very valid and are already addressed in future chapters. I'm glad you're enjoying the story and appreciate your insights. Uzumaki Ramen, thank you so much for your kind words. I'm thrilled to hear you're enjoying the story. Stay tuned, as there's much more to come. God of Wind 200, great question. While Naruto might initially seem to make more money without a team, the expenses he incurs for equipment, living costs, and training often offset the higher individual earnings from D-rank missions. Furthermore, the pay and cut reserve shinobi get is less, as I mentioned in a previous chapter. This aspect will be explored further in the story. Thanks for your support and for bringing up this interesting point. Happy reading. Part 1. Naruto's POV. The mission with Mariboshi Kosuka was a turning point in my life as a shinobi. It opened the floodgates for more challenging assignments. My reputation grew, and I began to receive more C-rank missions, often alongside Kosuka. Each mission was a new adventure, a new test of my skills and determination. With every success, I felt myself growing stronger and more confident. However, my first mission involving a kill took months to come to terms with. The nightmares were horrible, but what frightened me most was my lack of remorse, only disgust. It was a unique feeling that I discussed with both Mizuki and Kosuka. Mizuki's responses were somewhat helpful, echoing the sentiment of "it's you or them, and time will heal you." He tried to reassure me, saying that taking a life in self-defense was a necessary part of being a shinobi. While his words made logical sense, they did little to ease the turmoil within me. I knew what he said was true, yet it annoyed me. His perspective, while pragmatic, felt too detached and clinical for the emotional storm I was weathering. In an attempt to gain a different perspective, I visited the old matron of the orphanage. She had always been kind to me, providing a sense of stability and comfort during my childhood. One evening, I approached her with a hypothetical question. "Matron, what do you think of someone who is killed? Do you see them as a monster?" She looked at me with her wise, gentle eyes, sensing the turmoil behind my question. "Naruto, a person's actions do not define their entire being," she said softly. "A killer is not necessarily a monster. It depends on the circumstances and the reasons behind their actions. If someone kills to protect others, to defend the innocent, then it is a tragic necessity, not an evil deed." Her words offered a civilian perspective, one that contrasted sharply with the shinobi's pragmatic view. It was a reminder that the world was not black and white, and that morality was often painted in shades of gray. Her compassionate outlook gave me some comfort, but the confusion still lingered. Kosuka was hard to get a hold of, always being called for higher-ranking missions. But during the times we did take missions together, he would find moments to share his insights. One evening, during a rare moment of silence when I was trying to put on a facade of seriousness, he saw right through me. "How are the nightmares?" he asked. I was taken aback. How'd he know? Even to Mizuki, I had only mentioned the bare minimum of what I was going through. Kosuka, with a thoughtful expression, began to speak. "In the shinobi world, it's kill or be killed," he started, his voice steady and calm. I was about to interject, having heard this countless times from various mentors and peers, but he gestured for me to let him finish. His eyes held a depth of understanding and compassion that made me pause and listen intently. "A long time ago," he continued, "Lord Tobarama shared something profound with me when I was in his platoon during the First War. We were young and thrust into the brutality of conflict, much like you are now. He told us that it is not merely the act of killing or the immediate emotions that follow which make it a terrible burden. What truly defines the weight of taking a life is the underlying conviction, the lengths you are willing to go to ensure that your loved ones are never harmed." Kosuka's words struck a chord deep within me. Lord Tobarama explained that the essence of our duty as shinobi is not just in our ability to fight and kill, but in our unwavering commitment to protect. When we take a life, it is not an act of senseless violence, but a necessary step to safeguard those we care about. This perspective doesn't make the act itself any less gruesome, but gives it a purpose beyond the immediate brutality. He looked at me, his gaze penetrating and sincere. "You see, Naruto, in the heat of battle, when the choice is between your life or the life of an enemy, the decision to kill is driven by the desire to return home, to see your friends, your family, and your village safe. This desire, this purpose, is what transforms a grim necessity into a bearable reality. It's not about becoming numb to the act of killing, but about understanding and accepting the reasons behind it. Kosuke paused, allowing his words to sink in. It's a lesson in conviction and love. Love for your village, your comrades, and the ideals you hold dear. This love is what gives us the strength to do what must be done, no matter how painful it might be. Lord Tobarama believed that as long as we remember why we fight and whom we protect, we can carry the burden of our actions with a clear conscience. His words resonated deeply with me, offering a new perspective on the harsh realities of a shinobi's life. It wasn't just about survival or the act of taking a life. It was about the deeper purpose that drove those actions. This understanding began to ease the turmoil within me, helping me to see that my actions, while difficult, were part of a larger mission to protect and preserve the peace and safety of those I loved. I asked if he was implying the will of fire. He laughed, recalling how he had asked the same question to Tobarama. The will of fire is the will to protect your loved ones, but this is a bit different. Lord Tobarama said there are two fundamental paths to enlightenment: awareness and abandonment. These principles are deeply intertwined with the Senju philosophy, which is connected to the concepts of yin and yang. The Senju ancestors believed that one could rise by embodying both. Yin here is awareness and yang here is abandonment. But to truly go beyond, one must reach the zenith with one path rather than balancing both. In society, however, a balance or a veneer of balance is necessary for stability. They saw the paths of awareness and abandonment not just as methods, but as spiritual journeys that could elevate one's soul. However, Lord Tobarama, ever the pragmatist, viewed these concepts through a different lens. For him, these were tools to be utilized in the service of the village. I was confused, wondering if he had finally lost it or if he was trying to alleviate my burden with nonsense. He noticed my skepticism and continued. The path of abandonment is about surrender. In its ultimate form, there is no you in the world, just a complete giving of oneself to an ideal. That's the will of fire. You might think this is just propaganda, but it's bigger than that. When someone holds something above their own life and everything they hold dear, they become truly dangerous or powerful, depending on your perspective. Lord Tobarama would often say he had never seen anyone capable of love like Lord Hashirama, and that defined him. Kosuke leaned in, his voice taking on a more serious tone. Lord Tobarama understood that these principles were not just about personal growth, but were essential tools for a shinobi's duty. He believed that a true understanding of these paths could make one formidable. Abandonment, in his view, was about doing whatever it took to protect Konoha and its people. It was a strategy to ensure peace and stability, even if it meant sacrificing oneself or one's happiness. This selflessness, this willingness to put the village above all else, is what he defined as the true essence of the will of fire. He paused, allowing his words to sink in. The path of awareness, on the other hand, aligns with the yin aspect. It's about understanding the nature of the world and one's place in it. It's about seeing the interconnectedness of all things and acting with that knowledge. This awareness can also lead to great power, as it allows a shinobi to act with clarity and purpose. It's about perceiving the balance and using it to guide your actions, ensuring that every decision is made with full comprehension of its consequences. Kosuke's explanation left me with much to think about. The will of fire, the paths of abandonment and awareness, and the Senju philosophy all offered different perspectives on the life of a shinobi. They were not just about fighting and surviving, but about finding meaning and purpose in every action. These concepts were more than just philosophies. They were guiding principles that shaped how one approached the complexities and moral ambiguities of shinobi's duty. Kosuke continued. Lord Tobarama saw these paths as essential tools for a shinobi. He believed that a true understanding of these principles could make one formidable. This is why he admired his brother, Lord Hashirama, so much. Hashirama's ability to love and his boundless compassion were what made him so powerful. He embodied the path of abandonment, giving himself entirely to his ideals and his people. This love was not a weakness, but a source of immense strength. I was still skeptical, thinking that Hashirama's legendary would release couldn't just be a result of love. It seemed laughable. Kosuke smiled knowingly, seeing through my doubt. I understand your skepticism. You're young, and your experiences are still limited. But as you grow, you'll discover various forms of love. There's the love of parents and siblings, the unconditional bond that forms your earliest memories. Then there's the love of friends, those who stand by you through thick and thin, offering support and camaraderie. Eventually, you'll encounter romantic love, a powerful and sometimes overwhelming emotion that can drive you to great heights or profound depths. Kosuke paused, letting his words sink in. These experiences shape you, but not everyone experiences them all. And love isn't confined to these categories. I'm still discovering different kinds of love that aren't sexual or romantic in nature. This kind of love encompasses a broader will to protect and nurture those around you. He continued, the will to protect is a significant part of it, but as Lord Tobarama would say, it's just one aspect. The will to nurture is another, equally important aspect. You see, nurturing someone or something requires patience, understanding, and a deep sense of responsibility. It's about more than just ensuring survival. It's about fostering growth and potential. Kosuke's eyes softened as he spoke. When you plant a seed and nurture it, you don't dig it up daily to check its progress for your satisfaction. It will die. You trust in the process, providing it with the right conditions to grow. Similarly, sometimes when you love, you must hold it tenderly, allowing it to flourish in its own time. I listened intently, realizing the depth of what he was saying. Love, in its truest form, isn't about control or constant supervision. It's about trust, patience, and the willingness to step back and allow growth to happen. It's about knowing when to intervene and when to let go. Kosuke's smile grew wistful and said, Lord Second says, Hashirama's love wasn't just for people. It was for life itself. His ability to nurture and care for everything around him, to see the potential for growth and harmony in all things, was what made his wood release so powerful. It wasn't just a jutsu. It was an expression of his boundless compassion and his belief in the interconnectedness of all life. He looked at me with a mixture of warmth and seriousness. This love is not a weakness, but a source of immense strength. It's what allows you to see beyond the immediate and the obvious, to understand the deeper connections that bind us all yet liberate all. It gives you the power to protect and nurture, to foster growth and create harmony. I began to understand that the love Kosuke spoke of was not just an emotion, but a guiding principle that influenced every action. It was a force that could drive someone to great lengths to protect and nurture those they cared about. This love, in all its forms, was a fundamental part of what it meant to be a shinobi and a human being. He paused, noticing my confused expression. There are many more aspects of this I will tell you when you are older. For now, just understand that love is not as fickle as it seems. His words gave me a new perspective on love. I didn't have anyone to love, so did that mean I lacked the will of fire? I protected the village because I was taught to. These conflicting feelings swirled within me. But then I thought of Kosuke, Mizuki, and the old matron of the orphanage. I did have people to protect. Kosuke continued. Then there is the path to awareness. As Lord Tobarama put it, there was no one who walked this path as a killer and shinobi more than the monster himself. I asked who else would Lord Tobarama talk about? Madara Uchiha, of course, Kosuke replied, leaving me with a cliffhanger that made me yearn to know more. Stay tuned. We will continue this conversation on awareness and abandonment and the deeper meanings of these paths in the next chapter. Response to reviews. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Jay. I understand many of the readers has this concerns about the direction of the story. While Naruto will indeed interact with characters like Kakashi and Jiraiya in future chapters, these interactions will be complex and won't involve simple forgiveness. Naruto won't be aware of his heritage for quite some time. Whether he forgives them or not, he won't forget. We don't know yet which path Naruto will take. Will it be the path of surrender like Hashirama or the path of awareness like Madara? Both are equally powerful and enlightening, as the Senju say. Things are going well now, but that won't last forever. There will be many twists and turns. Rest assured, this is not a canon version of Naruto where he simply forgives everyone. He will be compassionate, but, at times, ruthless to both enemies and allies. Remember, Naruto is still a kid. I don't want to spoil the story by giving too much away. Shursui has not made his debut yet. I aim to explore the intricate emotions and struggles that come with such relationships. I hope you'll give it another chance, but I appreciate your honesty and wish you the best in your reading journey. Lady Elwyn. Great question. In this alternate universe, Kushina was indeed pregnant during the Kyuubi incident, but I don't want to spoil the fun by revealing too much. Kushina is very complex in the story. This aspect is crucial to the story's background and will be further explored in future chapters. Karen's role will also be clarified as the plot progresses, but she is not his sister. Thank you for your curiosity and support. God of Wind 200. Thank you for your continued engagement with the story. Regarding Naruto's equipment and finances, while D-rank missions are less demanding, Naruto's equipment still faces wear and tear due to his rigorous training and occasional higher-rank missions. Additionally, rogue ninja bounties will indeed come into play, and Naruto's financial situation will be detailed further. Moreover, the good bounties are for higher-ranked ninja, and some are not even the bingo books since the respective villages take care of them, especially Kiri, which is in a civil war. As for the D-rank missions, they provide a steady income, but Naruto's expenses and occasional higher costs will be addressed in upcoming chapters. Thanks for your insightful questions and support. Happy reading. Naruto's POV. Kosuke and I continued our conversation, which shifted to the nature of awareness. He paused, a thoughtful expression on his face, before speaking again. Awareness is not something that you do. It is something that you become, he began, echoing the teachings of Tobarama. Awareness is the highest form of intelligence. It is the essence of being alive. When you are aware, you are fully present in the moment, and you can see things as they are. This clarity is what we call the path of awareness. His words intrigued me, and I listened intently as he continued. The path of awareness is the journey of becoming aware of your thoughts, emotions, and actions. It's about observing your inner world without judgment and seeing the reality of life without the distortion of the mind. When you walk this path, you begin to see the interconnectedness of all things and understand the deeper truths of existence. I nodded, trying to grasp the depth of his words. Kosuke's teachings always had layers of meaning, and this was no different. To cultivate awareness, you need to practice mindfulness, meditation, and much more. These practices help you to quiet the mind and tune into the present moment. As you become more aware, you will start to see the patterns in your life and the ways in which your mind creates suffering. With this understanding, you can begin to make conscious choices that lead to a more joyful and fulfilling life. Kosuke's voice was calm and soothing, a stark contrast to the turmoil I often felt inside. The path of awareness is not a destination, but a continuous journey of self-discovery and growth despite what you see when you look. It requires dedication, patience, and a willingness to look deeply within yourself. But as you walk this path, you will find a sense of peace and clarity that transcends the ups and downs of life. I took a deep breath, feeling a mix of curiosity and apprehension. Kosuke, did Lord Tobarama say anything about awareness in relation to Madara Uchiha? I asked, eager to learn more about the enigmatic figure. Kosuke's expression grew more serious. Madara Uchiha. Yes, Lord Tobarama spoke of Madara, who had ventured the most on the path of awareness in his knowledge. Madara's Sharingan gave him unparalleled clarity, allowing him to see the world not just in terms of vision, but perception. The same could be said for the Hyuga clan and their Byakugan. These abilities should have been a gateway to true awareness, but they look at the world with biased emotions and all the impurities. They don't see the world for what it is, but for what they want to see it as. Kosuke paused, gathering his thoughts. Madara's journey on the path of awareness was unique. His Sharingan granted him the ability to perceive things with an extraordinary depth of clarity. He could see the true nature of chakra, the flow of energy in the world, and the intent behind actions. This should have been a path to enlightenment, a way to rise above the cycle of karma by achieving a balance between yin and yang. I listened, captivated by the story. So, what went wrong? I asked. Kosuke paused for a moment, then added, "Everyone has the potential for true awareness, but the Uchiha and Hyuga clans have an upper hand with their dojutsu. Both the Uchiha and the Hyuga clans have the potential for true awareness, but they often let their emotions cloud their judgment. It's not that emotion itself is the problem, but rather the compulsive nature of those emotions. True awareness has no place for compulsion. All actions must be conscious in nature. One can feel emotions deeply, but when it comes to action, those emotions should not cloud judgment. Instead, one should see through the emotions with clarity. Lord Hashirama always said that there was no one who could love more than an Uchiha, and Madara exemplified this in every way." He continued, "For Madara, it was his intense love for his brother, Izuna, that defined him. This love was his greatest strength and his greatest weakness. When Izuna was killed by Tobirama himself, Madara's profound love turned into an all-consuming hatred. Lord Tobirama often remarked that while the Uchiha's capacity for love was unparalleled, this same capacity made their hatred equally intense. Madara's emotions, unbridled and compulsive, ultimately clouded his judgment, leading him down a path of darkness. This is why true awareness, free from compulsive emotions, is essential for balance and clarity." I felt a chill run down my spine. The story was more personal than I had imagined. "So, Madara succumbed to his hatred?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Kosuke nodded. "At first, yes. But Madara was not just a man driven by rage. His awareness allowed him to see through the initial veil of hatred. He sought to overcome it, to find a deeper truth. And for a time, it seemed like he had succeeded. Despite Izuna's death, Madara, along with Hashirama, formed Konoha, a symbol of their shared dream for peace. Madara's initial drive for vengeance was transformed into a vision for a united shinobi world. However, as he delved deeper into his path, something changed. Kosuke continued, "I don't know exactly what happened. Some say it was ideological differences, while others believe there were other factors at play. The truth remains unclear. But Madara slipped. Instead of finding peace, he found a vision of a world dominated by power and control. His awareness, which once sought to transcend hatred and find a greater good, had turned into a vision of tyranny. Madara's perception of peace became twisted, and he believed that only through absolute power could true peace be achieved. His once noble intentions were corrupted, leading him down a dark path." Kosuke's words struck a chord deep within me. "So, awareness is a double-edged sword?" I asked. "Maybe," Kosuke replied. "Awareness is powerful, but it must be tempered with humility and compassion. Without these, even the clearest vision can lead one astray." I don't know what went wrong for Madara. His story is a cautionary tale. He ventured into uncharted terrain, exploring the depths of awareness. But ultimately, his vision became twisted by his desire for control and power. Awareness can be a double-edged sword or not, I don't know. As the saying goes, the higher you climb, the deeper you fall. Kosuke paused, reflecting on the weight of his words. If I were to go rogue, it would cause only a minor issue. The only problem will be my knowledge, clearance, and experience. I am old, and my power is nothing compared to that of Hiruzen, that is the Lord Third. But when someone like Madara Uchiha decides to go rogue, they change the landscape of the world and leave lasting scars. His power and influence were unparalleled, and his fall from grace was a calamity for all. He concluded with a somber tone, I had the pleasure, or rather, the displeasure, of seeing Madara once from a distance. It was terrifying. I was young, and the sheer presence he commanded was overwhelming. Even then, I could sense the formidable force that he was. His legacy is a stark reminder of what can happen when great power is not balanced with wisdom and compassion. Kosuke looked at me, his gaze penetrating and sincere. The path of awareness and the path of abandonment, as Lord Tobirama taught, are deeply intertwined with the Senju philosophy of yin and yang. The Senju ancestors believed that achieving a balance between these two forces could lead to spiritual enlightenment, helping individuals rise above the cycle of karma. However, to truly transcend, one must go to the zenith with one path rather than balance both yin and yang. In society, you need a balance or the veneer of balance. I reflected on these lessons, understanding the complexity of the path I was on. The teachings of awareness and abandonment were more than just philosophies. They were guiding principles that shaped how one approached the life of a shinobi. Kosuke's explanation left me with much to think about. So, Madara's journey was a cautionary tale? I asked. Kosuke smiled gently. Yes, in a way. Madara's story teaches us that while awareness can lead to profound insights. As we continued our journey, I reflected on Kosuke's words. The lessons of awareness and abandonment, the teachings of Lord Tobirama, and the tragic tale of Madara Uchiha all swirled in my mind. I felt a growing determination to walk my own path with clarity and purpose, mindful of the lessons from those who came before me. Naruto thought deeply about the principle of awareness, understanding that every action should be guided by conscious intent rather than compulsive emotion. This realization made him reconsider his approach to conflict and violence. Killing, he concluded, should never be an act driven by rage or hatred, but a conscious decision, executed with a clear mind and a heavy heart. He understood that every life taken would leave a scar on the world, and it was his responsibility to ensure his actions were just and necessary. He knew the definition of just and necessary would change with time. As they say, a mission is a mission. Drawing from Madara's tragic fall, Naruto vowed to avoid the pitfalls of unchecked ambition and power. This didn't mean he wouldn't seek power or become wealthy, as his ambitions still drove him. However, he recognized that power must be wielded responsibly. With this resolve, Naruto committed himself to becoming a shinobi who not only possessed great power, but also the wisdom to temper it. Whether he used his power for good or bad, he would do it consciously and with full awareness of the consequences. Naruto also felt he needed to grow a bit more before fully or begin to understand the path of surrender. He understood that surrender required him to look deeply into his emotions and completely immerse himself in them. At this moment, only the path of awareness made little sense to him, but he knew in his heart that the path of surrender was equally powerful. He vowed to explore this path when he was ready, understanding that it too held immense potential for growth and wisdom. Naruto also vowed to delve deeper into understanding both the path of awareness and the path of surrender. He knew that to walk his path effectively, he needed to learn from both the successes and failures of those who came before him. He resolved to seek out teachings and experiences that would expand his understanding, looking to the past for wisdom and to his peers for practical insights. This commitment to continuous learning and growth would be his guiding light as he navigated the complexities of his journey. In the days that followed, Naruto's resolve was put to the test. He faced challenges that required him to balance his formidable skills with his newfound principles. Each encounter reinforced his understanding that true awareness meant seeing beyond immediate emotions and impulses, acting with a clear, focused mind. Through these trials, Naruto began to embody the ideals of the shinobi he aspired to be, shaping his destiny with each mindful decision. Kosuke's POV. Kosuke's eyes held a distant look as he watched Naruto. This was a story he had never shared with anyone before. It was the longest and last conversation he had with Lord Second Hokage before the fateful encounter with the Kinkaku and Ginkaku squad. As he reflected on that night, memories flooded back vividly. By the end of their conversation, the sunrise had bathed them in light, just as it did now. It was a night watch, and Kosuke had taken the duty knowing his skills were weaker compared to the rest, but his situational awareness was excellent. For some reason, Lord Tobarama had never slept that night, as if he had known what was about to happen the next day. They had talked extensively, and Kosuke had absorbed every word of wisdom and insight shared. Kosuke thought about how the knowledge imparted by Lord Tobarama had never felt like it was meant solely for him. Even then, he had a sense that the teachings were destined for someone else, someone who would carry them forward in a way he never could. Now, seeing Naruto, he realized that the wisdom was meant for this young boy. The paths of awareness and surrender had greatly helped Kosuke become the person he was today. They provided him with a foundation to navigate the complexities of life and to make decisions with clarity and purpose. While his power might not compare to the great shinobi of their time, the wisdom he gained had always been his greatest strength. Kosuke's curiosity about Naruto's future was boundless. He had watched many promising shinobi rise and fall, but Naruto had something different, a potential that, with the right guidance, could lead to true greatness. Kosuke knew that the path of awareness would help Naruto see through the fog of emotions and make decisions with a clear mind would redeem his conscience of his first kill. When the time came, the path of surrender would allow Naruto to embrace his emotions fully and use them as a source of strength rather than a hindrance. He thought about how these teachings had shaped his own life. The principles of awareness had taught him to act with intent and clarity, free from the compulsion of unchecked emotions. The path of surrender had been harder to embrace, requiring him to look deeply into his emotions and fully immerse himself in them. Yet, both paths had proven invaluable, providing balance and insight that had guided him through countless challenges. Kosuke could see the potential in Naruto, a potential that could surpass his own and even that of those who came before him. The boy had a determination and resilience that reminded him of the great shinobi he had served alongside. He was eager to see how these teachings would shape Naruto's journey, how the boy would interpret and apply the principles of awareness and surrender in his own life, or will take the ultimate path venture deep into one. Which one would it be? In his heart, Kosuke felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The knowledge and wisdom he had carried all these years were not just relics of the past, but seeds for the future. He believed in Naruto and looked forward to seeing the shinobi he would become, knowing that the boy had great potential. Over the next 4 months, I took on mission after mission, honing my skills and proving my worth. My abilities in cooking and camping, taught to me by Kosuke, made me a valuable asset to my team. I became one of the aides in reserve, always ready to support my comrades with my growing expertise in sealing techniques and my solid mid to high chunin level abilities. Kosuke's teachings had indeed made a significant impact on my growth. I remembered the long nights we spent training, his patient instruction in the ways of awareness and the subtle art of surrender. His lessons in swordsmanship were beginning to pay off as well. My budding sword style was becoming more refined with each passing day. Kosuke's wisdom and experience had given me a new perspective on what it meant to be a shinobi. In the last 7 months, I had grown immensely. I had become stronger, more aware, and more skilled. It was hard to believe that it had been a year since Kakashi had dismissed me as worthless, discarding me from his program. The sting of that rejection had fueled my determination to prove myself, to show that I was capable of greatness. Kosuke's guidance had been instrumental in this transformation, helping me to harness my potential and channel it into tangible progress. Looking back, I realized how far I'd come. The Naruto of a year ago was a far cry from the person I was now. I had faced countless challenges, but each one had only made me stronger. I had learned to balance my emotions with clarity of mind, to act with conscious intent rather than being driven by compulsive impulses. The path of awareness and the burgeoning understanding of surrender had given me a foundation to build upon, guiding me through the complexities of my journey. As I continued to reflect on my journey, I thought about how my training with Kosuke had started. I remembered how hesitant I had been, unsure of my place and my abilities. Kosuke had taken me under his wing, teaching me not just the skills of shinobi, but also the philosophy behind those skills. The long hours spent mastering the basics of swordplay, the careful instruction in the art of sealing, and the constant emphasis on the importance of awareness and mindfulness had shaped me into a more capable and confident ninja. I had become more proficient in my abilities. My time with Kosuke in the wilderness, learning how to camp and survive, had instilled in me a sense of self-reliance and resilience. Kosuke had shared stories of his own experiences, offering insights that went beyond the practical skills I was learning. His tales of the second Hokage and the profound lessons he had imparted resonated deeply with me. It was during these sessions that I began to understand the true depth of the teachings Kosuke was passing on. The nights spent around the campfire, listening to Kosuke's quiet, reflective voice, were some of the most transformative moments of my training. He spoke of awareness, of seeing through the veil of emotions to the clear truth beyond. He explained the importance of understanding one's emotions but not being controlled by them. These lessons were not just about becoming a better shinobi, they were about becoming a better person. In the days that followed, I resolved many missions. Each mission presented new challenges, and I had to balance my formidable skills with my newfound principles. The path of awareness meant seeing beyond immediate emotions and impulses, acting with a clear, focused mind. It was a constant struggle, but each trial reinforced my understanding and commitment. One particular mission stood out in my mind. We were tasked with escorting a group of villagers through a dangerous forest. It was a routine mission, but halfway through, we were ambushed by a band of rogue ninja. In the heat of battle, I remembered Kosuke's teachings. I kept my mind clear, my actions deliberate. My sealing techniques and sword skills, combined with my strategic awareness, turned the tide in our favor. We successfully repelled the attackers and completed the mission without any casualties. Through these trials, I began to embody the ideals of the shinobi I aspired to be. My growth was not just in strength and skill, but in wisdom and understanding. I was shaping my destiny with each mindful decision, guided by the timeless wisdom of those who had come before me. Thank you for giving Naruto, the last harbinger of storm, a chance. Please share your thoughts and comments. Join Third Fire Trident on Chapter 11, The Battle Within is out. In my patron. Chapter 12, Aftermath is out. In my patron. Finally, Chapter 13, The Wrath of the Professor is out. In my patron. Spoiler, this has 6K words of fight between Professor himself and Kisame and Zabuza. The battle will be epic. 6 more months had passed, and I was now almost 8 years old. If anyone asked, I'd proudly say my birthday was on December 21st, just a month away. Despite my situation, I felt a sense of contentment that I hadn't known before. It had been a year and a half since the boot camp, and my fortune had changed in unprecedented ways, or at least it felt that way to me. That fateful day with Kosuke had indeed opened doors to a brighter future. My fortunes seemed to improve exponentially since my encounter with Kosuke. High-ranking missions became my daily routine, and even though I was still a genin, I was now trusted with B-rank missions. The pay was substantial, and I had moved from the shabby shinobi bunker, which I reclaimed after living under a bridge, to a studio apartment. It wasn't just a bunk in the dorm anymore. It was a place I could call my own. High-level shinobi started noticing me. After my philosophical mission with Kosuke, which I now refer to as the mission that changed my perspective, I had the opportunity to work with Gecko Hei and his team. This team consisted of former Hokage guards, Genma Shiranui, Reidu Namishi, and Iwashi Tatami. I was surprised to learn that Iwashi Sensei was part of this elite platoon. The four of them often teamed up for missions outside of those assigned by Lord Third. One day, they tried to recruit Kosuke, but he had other commitments. To my surprise, he suggested my name instead. Initially, the team was skeptical and didn't want a young genin on their mission. However, Kosuke's strong endorsement, coupled with Hayate's personal experience with me and Iwashi Sensei's desire to see me in action again, sealed the deal. The mission was simple: bandit extermination. In our team of 5, we had 2 Jonin and 2 Chunin, including Iwashi Sensei and Hayate, who was preparing for his Jonin test. After the QB attack, Iwashi Sensei had withdrawn from the more gruesome aspects of shinobi work, finding solace in teaching at the academy as a Chunin. The attack had left deep scars, not just on the village, but also on the hearts of many shinobi. The trauma of that night was something Iwashi Sensei carried with him, influencing his decision to step away from the front lines. Teaching the next generation provided a sense of purpose and stability amidst the lingering chaos. However, despite his preference for a quieter life, Iwashi Sensei's reputation as a skilled shinobi and his knowledge of legendary jutsu made him indispensable. These techniques were tailored specifically for the trio by the 4th Hokage, making them unique and irreplaceable. The upper echelon of the village, aware of his invaluable skills, often pressured him to take on missions that required his expertise. This displeasure was palpable. They viewed his desire to stay away from combat as a waste of his abilities. The village needed all its assets, especially those with the kind of specialized knowledge that Iwashi Sensei possessed. Even though I was competent for my age, I was acutely aware of my inexperience in battle. The battlefield was an unforgiving place, and senior shinobi rarely gambled with their lives by bringing along untested rookies. They preferred reliability and seasoned skills, qualities I had yet to fully prove. To ensure I wasn't seen as a liability, I made it my mission to become irreplaceable. I knew that I couldn't match their experience, but I could contribute in other ways. I took on the cooking duties, having become quite proficient thanks to Kosuke's lessons. Using my water clones, I set up camps swiftly and efficiently, utilizing various seals to enhance our safety and efficiency. Proximity seals, heating seals to reduce smoke, identification seals, and more became lifesavers on many missions. These skills not only showcased my utility, but also demonstrated my dedication to the team's success. The upper echelons of the village, while respectful of Iwashi Sensei's wishes, couldn't help but feel frustrated at times. They understood the trauma he had endured, but were also keenly aware of the strategic advantage his skills provided. His specialized knowledge in sealing techniques was seen as a critical asset, and there was a constant push and pull between allowing him the peace he sought and utilizing his invaluable abilities for the village's benefit. Out of great curiosity, I once asked Iwashi Sensei to show me the seal formula of the legendary flying thunder god, Hiraishin. To my surprise, he agreed and showed me a kunai with the sealing array etched onto its handle in intricate kanji. I was shocked he showed me the formula so readily. After all, it was one of the most guarded and coveted jutsu in Konoha. When I examined it closely, I realized why. It was as if I was trying to decipher a new language. The complexity was overwhelming. Iwashi Sensei saw the expression on my face and laughed uproariously. "What is this?" I asked, bewildered. "I can't begin to understand this array." He smiled. "This is just a glimpse into the depth of understanding and the fraction of knowledge the 4th Hokage had in sealing techniques. This isn't even his masterpiece. The personal seal he used could transport objects the size of Biju, create space-time barriers, and teleport multiple targets in seconds. This kunai holds the most diluted form of the technique." I was utterly shocked. My world had just been turned upside down. "Do you understand this array?" I asked, now holding a great reverence for Awashi-sensei. I had always felt that his knowledge in sealing was very localized and specialized. He always seemed to view sealing not as an art, but merely as a tool. But if he knew this seal, I had to take back all my reservations. He shook his head. Not entirely. I have enough understanding to use it, which is more than most in the world. This branch of sealing is becoming more obscure as time passes. We have fewer and fewer seal masters, let alone grandmasters or arch-grandmasters, which even the fourth Hokage fell short of. Hearing this, I realized the true depth and breadth of the sealing arts. It was a humbling experience, one that made me appreciate the legacy of the fourth Hokage and the intricate, powerful techniques he left behind. It also ignited a desire within me to delve deeper into the study of seals, understanding that what I knew was just the surface of a vast and profound discipline. On these missions, my role became crucial in ensuring the team's efficiency and safety. I took pride in my responsibilities, knowing that my efforts allowed the more experienced shinobi to focus on the critical aspects of the mission. Cooking delicious meals, setting up secure camps, and using seals to protect our position were tasks that seemed minor but were vital in the grand scheme of our operations. This not only made me feel useful, but also helped build trust within the team. When I set up camp, it was my swiftness and efficiency that ingratiated me, utilizing various seals to enhance our safety and effectiveness. Proximity seals, heating seals to reduce smoke, identification seals, and more became lifesavers on many missions. One of the more challenging aspects was gaining the respect of senior shinobi who were initially skeptical of my abilities. They had seen countless rookies come and go, many not surviving their first real battle. I understood their reservations and worked tirelessly to prove myself. Each successful mission, each well-prepared meal, and each strategic use of seals helped shift their perception. Slowly, I was becoming more than just a young genin. I was becoming a reliable member of the team. Our first mission together involved clearing out a bandit camp. The bandits consisted of academy dropouts, a few genin, a lot of non-ninja bandits, and 3 chunin leaders. We worked swiftly and efficiently to take them down. Kosuke had taught me the basics of sensing, revealing that I was a natural. My nascent sensing ability, while still developing, was good enough to find their scouts and patrols. The others could sense as well, but none were naturals like me. I proved my worth, and since then, I became a constant member of their team. The pay was good, and they gradually introduced me to B-rank missions. My budding kinjutsu skills were honed further with training from Hate. When I mentioned that Kosuke had taught me the basics, Hate took it upon himself to refine my techniques. Despite their praise, I knew I was still far from mastering the sword. Hayate's prowess was awe-inspiring, and while Kosuke was also skilled, it was clear that I still had a long way to go. Konoha wasn't known for its swordsmanship like Kirigakure, home to the legendary 7 swordsmen of the mist. I often wondered how they could call me talented when I felt so inadequate compared to the likes of Hayate or the swordsmen of Kiri. Aside from Hayate's team, I also worked with other teams, including Izumo and Kotetsu. Then there was the eccentric yet formidable shinobi named Guy. Mato Guy was as enigmatic as he was powerful, rumored to be as skilled as Kakashi, an A-rank shinobi in the bingo books. Just like with Hayate's team, my inclusion was thanks to Kosuke's endorsement. On a mission with Guy's team, I quickly learned to adapt to his unique approach. Initially, I thought Guy's eccentric personality made him seem a bit slow and gullible, but I soon realized that it masked a deeply strategic mind. His relentless energy and unconventional methods pushed me to think differently, helping me grow stronger and more versatile. I thought I was fit and good at taijutsu and kenjutsu. I trained relentlessly to my limits since joining the academy, and my efforts had only increased. However, Guy taught me that there was more to physical fitness and endurance. He showed me that what I was doing was like a sloth's effort compared to a honey badger's. I realized I'd slacked off a lot of my training. I could never reach his standard or his ethics, but integrating his grueling training routines into our missions really paid off. It was during these missions that I began to understand the importance of mental fortitude and physical resilience. One mission, in particular, stood out. We were tasked with escorting a high-profile merchant through a dangerous region notorious for bandit attacks. True to form, Guy approached the mission with boundless enthusiasm, turning the escort into a dynamic training session. We encountered numerous threats along the way, and each time, Guy's tactics were both unpredictable and effective. He taught me to think on my feet, to expect the unexpected, and to harness my inner strength. These experiences with various teams not only broadened my skill set, but also helped me build a network of mentors and allies. Each mission, each lesson, added to my growing confidence and competence as a shinobi. I began to see the interconnectedness of the shinobi world, understanding that every experience, no matter how small, contributed to my overall growth. We had been traveling for several days without incident when the first sign of trouble appeared. Guy, ever vigilant, noticed subtle disturbances along the path, tracks too fresh, the sudden silence of the forest. "Stay alert, everyone," Guy said, his tone still cheerful but with an edge of seriousness. "I have a feeling we're about to get some unexpected company." It wasn't long before a group of shinobi emerged from the trees, their headbands conspicuously absent. Guy's eyes narrowed as he recognized a few of them. "Kyumo shinobi," he muttered under his breath, signaling for us to be ready. Despite the peace treaty signed a few years ago, tensions between Konoha and Kyumo remained high, especially after the infamous Hyuga incident where Kyumo had attempted to steal the Byakugan. If these shinobi were caught, the Land of Lightning would surely deny any involvement. The Kyumo shinobi launched their attacks swiftly. Shuriken flew through the air as they charged towards the caravan. Guy was a whirlwind of motion, deflecting the projectiles with his sheer speed and agility. "Naruto, protect the merchant. Kotetsu, Izumo, Ko, form a perimeter," he barked, his usual jovial tone replaced by the commanding presence of a seasoned warrior. I positioned myself in front of the merchant, my senses heightened. I could feel the adrenaline pumping through my veins as I created a few shadow clones to bolster our defenses. One of the Kyumo shinobi, a burly man with a scar across his face, lunged at me. I countered with a flurry of kunai, forcing him to dodge. "You're not getting past me," I shouted, my voice steady despite the chaos around us. The Kyumo shinobi regrouped and attacked in coordinated waves. I saw Kotetsu and Izumo fending off a group on the left flank, their synchronized movements creating a deadly dance of steel and strategy. Kotetsu used his unique jutsu to manipulate the environment, creating pitfalls and barriers that disrupted the enemy's approach. Izumo, from his vantage point in the trees, rained down a barrage of shuriken and kunai, each one finding its mark with pinpoint accuracy. Ko, with his Byakugan activated, identified weak points in the enemy formation. His precise strikes incapacitated several attackers, his gentle fist style proving devastating. "Naruto, stay sharp," he called out as he disabled another opponent with a swift palm strike. I created more clones, spreading them out to form a defensive line around the merchant. One of my clones engaged a Kyumo shinobi wielding dual kunai. Their blades clashed in a rapid series of strikes and parries. The clone feinted to the left, drawing the enemy's guard, then delivered a swift kick to his midsection, sending him sprawling. Meanwhile, the leader of the Kyumo shinobi, a woman with intense eyes and swift movements, directed her team with calculated efficiency. She had a presence that demanded attention and respect. I noticed her targeting Guy, trying to draw him away from the main battle. Guy, recognizing the ploy, turned to me. "Naruto, keep everyone safe. I'll handle this." He launched himself towards the leader, their clash creating shockwaves that shook the ground. Despite her skill, Guy's relentless energy and superior tactics began to wear her down. They exchanged a flurry of blows, each strike creating gusts of wind that scattered leaves and dust. Guy's dynamic entry technique shattered her defense, forcing her to retreat momentarily. "We need to subdue them quickly," he shouted over the noise of battle. "If this continues, it could spark a larger conflict." Following Guy's lead, we intensified our efforts. I directed my clones to surround and confuse the remaining attackers. We moved as a unit, overwhelming the Kumo shinobi with our coordinated strikes. One of my clones engaged another enemy, using a combination of taijutsu and ninjutsu to outmaneuver him. I delivered a spinning kick that connected solidly, sending the shinobi crashing into a tree. Ko, using his Byakugan, pinpointed the location of another attacker hiding in the bushes. "There!" he shouted, and Kotetsu quickly responded, using his unique ninjutsu to trap the enemy in a sticky web-like substance. The Kumo shinobi struggled, but the more he fought, the more entangled he became. The tide of the battle turned in our favor. The Kumo leader, realizing her team was outmatched, signaled for a retreat. "This isn't over," she hissed at Guy before disappearing into the forest with her remaining comrades. With the immediate threat neutralized, we regrouped around the merchant. He was shaken but unharmed. Guy, though still energetic, had a somber expression. "These encounters are reminders that peace is fragile," he said. "We must always be prepared to defend it." As we continued our journey, I couldn't help but reflect on the events of the day. The clash with the Kumo shinobi had taught me valuable lessons about strategy, teamwork, and the delicate balance of peace and conflict. Despite the hostility that still lingered between Konoha and Kumo, we had managed to protect our charge and maintain the fragile peace. These experiences with various teams not only broadened my skill set, but also helped me build a network of mentors and allies. Each mission, each lesson, added to my growing confidence and competence as a shinobi. I began to see the interconnectedness of the shinobi world, understanding that every experience, no matter how small, contributed to my overall growth. As my 8th birthday approached, I found myself reflecting on the journey so far. From a struggling genin living under a bridge to a respected member of the shinobi community, the transformation was nothing short of miraculous. I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the mentors who had guided me, the friends who had supported me, and the challenges that had shaped me. Now, looking at the upcoming Chunin promotion exam, I didn't know what to feel. This Chunin exam wasn't like the public one where shinobi from various villages participated. It was specifically for reserve shinobi and some elite members who didn't take the public exam. This was the third way to get promoted other than through a field promotion or the public Chunin exam that, I stood atop the watchtower. Overlooking the border we were patrolling, the chilly winter air nipped at my face. The landscape below was a patchwork of frosted forests and snow-dusted plains, with the distant mountains standing like silent guardians. The ticket for my Chunin exam was in my hand, a tangible reminder of the challenge that awaited me. I felt a mixture of excitement and determination. In the last 4 months, I put my full focus on Kenjutsu, Taijutsu, Jinjutsu, and Fuinjutsu. It's not that I neglected ninjutsu. I used it extensively in the missions. I had built a substantial arsenal of water jutsus, including a few B-rank ones that I was particularly proud of. These range from defensive techniques like the water wall, Suidun, Suijin Hiki, to more offensive jutsus like the water-searing wave, Suitun, Suishoha, and water prison, Suiro no Jutsu. Each mission had honed my skills, pushing my mastery to new heights. However, my real progress had been in blending these techniques with my Kenjutsu. Kosuka and Hate had been instrumental in this. I learned a few nin Kenjutsu amalgamations, merging the precision and discipline of Kenjutsu with the fluidity and power of ninjutsu. One of the most significant additions to my skill set was the Leaf's famous crescent moon dance, Kage Miyazuki, a technique that Kosuka had passed on to Hate, and now Kosuka had passed on to me as well. This move involved creating multiple illusions to confuse the enemy, then striking with swift, unpredictable sword attacks. It was both beautiful and deadly, and I had spent countless hours perfecting it. Taijutsu had also been a major focus. Guy's rigorous training regimen had pushed my physical limits further than I thought possible. I incorporated his lessons into my daily routine, focusing on speed, strength, and endurance. My taijutsu had become more fluid and powerful, capable of holding its own against even seasoned fighters. Jinjutsu, too, had seen remarkable improvement. As my chakra control increased, so did my ability to cast and dispel illusions. Kosuke's teachings had shown me the subtleties of Jinjutsu, how to weave it into combat seamlessly. I could now create convincing illusions that could confuse and mislead my opponents, giving me the upper hand in battle. Fuinjutsu, however, had become my true passion. The complexity and versatility of sealing techniques fascinated me. I spent hours in the library, poring over old scrolls and practicing intricate seals. My efforts paid off. I could now create advanced seals for various purposes, from trapping enemies to storing weapons and supplies. I even began experimenting with barrier seals, creating protective barriers that could absorb and deflect attacks. With all this preparation, I felt a new level of confidence. The knowledge and skills I had gained were not just theoretical. They had been tested and proven in real missions. Each success, each challenge overcome, had forged me into a stronger, more capable shinobi. The upcoming Chunin exam was another step, another opportunity to demonstrate my growth and prove my worth, especially since it was my chance to show the higher-ups and other shinobi my worth. But luck is a fickle thing. I was ordered on a regular border patrol mission. The order was that I would be relieved from duty 20 days prior to the exam, around mid-January. As luck would have it, 3 days prior to the completion of my mission, a bloodied Chunin staggered into our outpost. Our platoon consisted of 10 shinobi, 3 Chunin, 1 Jonin, and 6 Genin. We were severely understaffed due to a massive outbreak of flu in the nearby 7 sectors, causing severe symptoms like blood vomiting. The affected sectors had to be immediately isolated and taken to healthcare facilities, leaving only our sector to cover the remaining 7 until reinforcements and replacements arrived. The bloodied Chunin collapsed as he relayed his message. Our daimyo, Lord Una of the Land of Fire, his convoy, is under attack. We looked at him skeptically. One of our team members, a seasoned Chunin, even contemplated the possibility that it was a ruse. Why would the daimyo venture anywhere near here with such a deadly flu outbreak nearby? He asked. One of the Chunin, a seasoned warrior named Takashi, voiced his disbelief. The daimyo never travels with just a single Chunin. He's always surrounded by platoons of samurai well-versed in chakra, elite Jonin, Chunin, and ANBU protecting him around the clock. Not to mention the monks from the Fire Temple and the Guardian 12. It's said this crop of Guardian 12 is one of the best in the history of the Order, capable of taking on S-rank shinobi if needed. Another Chunin, a tall woman named Aiko, nodded in agreement. It doesn't make sense. Why would he be here with such minimal protection? And why haven't we received any prior intelligence about his movements? Tetsuo, our Jonin leader, considered their words carefully before responding. These are valid points, but we can't ignore the possibility that something unexpected has happened. We have to assume the worst and prepare accordingly. If the daimyo is indeed in danger, we need to act quickly and decisively. Another Chunin, Sora, voiced a concern that had been on all our minds. What if this is some sort of ruse? The daimyo doesn't travel with just a single Chunin. He has platoons of samurai well-versed in chakra, elite Jonin, Chunin, and ANBU protecting him. Not to mention the monks from the Fire Temple and the Guardian 12. Where are they, and why didn't we hear any sound or indication of battle? Tetsuo nodded, acknowledging the possibility. You're right, Sora. This could very well be a trap to lure us away or into an ambush. But we can't afford to take that chance. If there's even a small possibility that the daimyo is in danger, we must act. We'll proceed with extreme caution. Tetsuo turned his attention back to the unconscious Chunin, looking for further confirmation. Does he have the mission scroll indicating he was part of the daimyo's guard detail? It's protocol to keep it well hidden on their person. Before the Chunin could respond, he fainted from blood loss. Acting quickly, Tetsuo ordered a thorough search of his belongings. We moved swiftly but carefully, respecting the gravity of the situation. I felt a mix of anxiety and anticipation, knowing how critical it was to verify this information. As we searched, I couldn't help but think about the various scenarios that could have led to this moment. If this was indeed a trap, who could be behind it? What were their motives? And if it wasn't, how could the daimyo have ended up in such a precarious position? Finally, in one of the pouches, we found what we were looking for, a mission scroll. Tetsuo unrolled it, his eyes scanning the contents quickly. "This confirms it," he said, looking up with a mixture of relief and determination. "He is part of the daimyo's guard detail. This scroll is genuine." The discovery added urgency to our mission, dispelling some doubts while raising the stakes even higher. The reality of the situation began to sink in. We were not just dealing with a potential threat to a high-profile figure. We were possibly on the verge of preventing a significant political disaster. The room fell silent as we processed this information. The situation was more dire than any of us had anticipated. Tetsuo paused, assessing the situation with a grave expression before addressing us with a firm and resolute tone. "We don't know if this is true or a deception, but we can't afford to leave this part of the border unguarded. The safety of the land of fire hinges on our vigilance." His voice sliced through the tension in the air. "All right, we move out immediately. Naruto, keep your sensing abilities on high alert. This could be the real deal, or it could be a trap. Either way, we need to be ready for anything." Tetsuo then turned to Waji, one of our best short-range fighters. "Waji, you're coming with us. Out of the 10 shinobi here, you, Naruto, and I will follow the trail to where this Chunin came from." His intense gaze settled on me. "Naruto, you'll be our sensor. Remain hidden at all times and use your abilities to detect any threats before they catch us off guard." He then faced Takashi, another trusted Chunin. "Takashi, you will take command here. Send an urgent message to HQ ASAP. Inform them that I've handed over command to you, and let them know of the developments. Under no circumstances are you to abandon this post. This is a situation where we can't afford a strategic retreat. If we leave this post, we give the enemy free access to the land of fire." The weight of his words settled over us like a heavy fog. We are tasked with defending this border, and we will do so until the last man or woman from this platoon is standing. This is our duty, and we will not falter. The security of our homeland relies on our actions today. His determined gaze locked onto mine. "Naruto, you'll be our sensor. Stay concealed at all times, moving stealthily to avoid detection. Waji will lead the way, and I'll cover our rear. Use your sensing abilities to identify any threats before they become a problem. We must be vigilant, quick, and prepared for anything." With his orders clear, we prepare to move out, each of us acutely aware of the immense responsibility we carried. The mission ahead was uncertain, but we were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to protect our village and our land. As we moved through the forest, the mood was tense, the weight of our mission pressing heavily on our shoulders. The trees were dense, their shadows casting an eerie darkness around us. My senses were on high alert, every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs sending a jolt through my nerves. Waji and Tetsuo communicated in hushed whispers, their movements careful and calculated. "Naruto, keep your senses sharp," Tetsuo whispered, his eyes scanning the surroundings. "We don't know what we're walking into." I nodded, focusing on the faint trail left by the injured Chunin. My sensing abilities were in full gear, trying to pick up any chakra signatures or disturbances ahead. The forest was alive with subtle energies, but nothing yet stood out as a threat. We followed the trail cautiously, each step bringing us closer to the cliff-like area described by the Chunin. The terrain became more rugged, the the ground uneven and covered in thick underbrush. Waji and Tetsuo moved with practiced ease, their eyes constantly darting around for any signs of danger. As we neared the cliff, I sensed a cluster of powerful chakra signatures ahead. I signaled to Tetsuo and Waji, and we slowed our pace, blending into the shadows. From our vantage point, we could see a chaotic scene unfolding below. Bodies of samurai and monks littered the ground, a testament to the fierce battle that had taken place. The air was thick with the metallic scent of blood and the acrid smell of burning wood. In the midst of the carnage, a large translucent barrier shimmered, its surface flickering with energy. "What is that?" Waji whispered, his eyes wide with shock. "It's a barrier," I replied, my voice low. "It erases sound and chakra presence completely. It's sophisticated, and it's not something I've encountered before." Waji was about to step closer when I grabbed his arm. "Wait, this barrier also has proximity seals intertwined. If we cross it without disarming them, the caster will know someone has entered." Waji's eyes narrowed as he studied the barrier. "Are the people standing at the corners the casters?" I shook my head. "No, they're powering it, but they're not the casters. Give me some time to analyze it." As I focused on the barrier, I could hear Tetsuo curse under his breath. "Shit, we are in trouble. This isn't a foreign power fighting. It's the Guardian 12 fighting among themselves." Waji looked at him, incredulous. "What? Why would they be fighting each other?" Tetsuo pointed to the figures within the barrier. "I recognize a few of them. Asuma Tsurutobi, Chiriku, Kitane, Nama, To, and Sito. They're part of the 12 Guardian Ninja. They're fighting against another group. This isn't an external attack. It's an internal conflict." I glanced up from my analysis, my interest peaked. Who are they fighting? "The other banner is that of Lord Daimyo's oldest son," Tetsuo explained, his voice grim. "It looks like a usurpation attempt." As I worked to decipher the barrier, the scene within unfolded like a brutal dance. Asuma Tsurutobi and his comrades fought with precision and ferocity, their movements a testament to their elite status. They clashed with the opposing forces, the air crackling with chakra as powerful jutsus lit up the night. Chiriku, a monk from the Fire Temple, unleashed devastating taijutsu techniques, his fists glowing with chakra as he struck down enemies with swift, controlled movements. Kitane and the other lightning users formed a coordinated defense, their combined efforts creating a web of electric energy that repelled attacks. The battle inside the barrier was intense, each movement a blend of deadly precision and raw power. Asuma Tsurutobi, wielding his signature trench knives infused with wind chakra, moved with unmatched agility. His hien, flying swallow, technique extended the reach of his blades, creating a lethal edge that cut through the enemy's defenses effortlessly. Ien, Asuma's voice rang out as he dispatched foes with calculated strikes, his trench knives glowing with blue chakra. Chiriku's movements were a blur of disciplined strikes. His abilities, honed through years of training at the Fire Temple, were showcased as he used his signature taijutsu techniques. "Soryu Tenra," twin dragons of heaven, Chiriku called, his fists enveloped in a bright aura as he delivered a powerful double punch that sent shockwaves through the enemy ranks. Each strike was precise, breaking bones and incapacitating foes with brutal efficiency. Kitane, Nama, To, and Sito stood together, their synchronization impeccable. Kitane's command of lightning jutsu was on full display as he channeled his chakra to create a protective barrier. Raita and Jibashiri, lightning release, electromagnetic murder, he yelled, releasing a torrent of electricity that formed a crackling web around them. The electric net repelled attackers, electrocuting anyone who dared to come close. Nama, To, and Sito complemented Kitane's defense with their own lightning attacks. Titan, Zhang. Lightning release, false darkness, Nama shouted, launching a spear of lightning that pierced through multiple enemies. To and Sido used coordinated strikes to create an overwhelming assault, their combined lightning jutsu forming a blinding light that disoriented and destroyed their opponents. From my vantage point, I could see the clash of titans unfolding. The rebels were equally fierce, their dark intentions clear in every move. Kazuma, leading the usurpers, fought with a ruthless edge, his sword glowing with ominous energy. Raihin no Sura, slash of the thunder god. He roared, his blade crackling with destructive power as he faced off against the loyalists. As I continued to work on deciphering the barrier, I couldn't help but feel a mix of awe and insignificance. These were some of the most powerful shinobi and monks in the Land of Fire, their abilities far surpassing anything I had encountered before. Each move, each jutsu was executed with a level of skill and precision that highlighted the vast gulf between my current abilities and theirs. Chiriku's fists glowed with an intense chakra as he launched into another attack. Reigo, Senju Satsu. Welcoming approach, thousand-armed murder, he cried, summoning 1,000 phantom arms that struck down enemies in a whirlwind of destruction. Kitane, Nama, To, and Sido's combined lightning jutsu formed a near-impenetrable barrier, their relentless assault pushing back the rebels with each coordinated strike. As I worked to unravel the seals, I caught glimpses of the loyalist strategy. It was the old man and loyalist who was the strategist. It was evident as he coordinated with Chiriku and the others, creating openings and exploiting weaknesses with deadly efficiency. His Hien technique was a blur, cutting through enemy defenses with surgical precision. The rebels fought back with equal ferocity, Kazuma's presence a dark and commanding force. His jutsu Fujin and Raijin no Sura cleaved through the battlefield, each swing of his blade a testament to his determination to seize power. The loyalists and rebels were locked in a deadly dance, their every move a struggle for dominance and survival. I focused intently on the barrier, my hands moving in a precise pattern as I channeled my chakra into the seals. The complexity of the barrier was daunting, but I could feel the energy shifting as I made progress. The translucent barrier shimmered and pulsed, a visual representation of the intricate web of chakra that held it together. Waji and Tetsuo exchanged whispered conversations, their eyes never leaving the battlefield. They used hand signals to communicate, their movements precise and practiced. Tetsuo's gaze was sharp as he assessed the situation, his mind calculating the best course of action. Waji's expression was focused, his readiness to engage evident in every taut muscle. As I continued to work, the barrier began to yield under my efforts. The seals responded to my chakra, their energy shifting as I manipulated them. The process required intense concentration, each adjustment bringing me closer to breaching the barrier safely. Tetsuo's voice broke through my focus, low and urgent. "Naruto, how close are you?" "Almost there," I replied, my hands moving quickly as I made the final adjustments. The barrier shimmered, its energy shifting in response to my manipulations. Waji's eyes were fixed on the battle, his body tense and ready. "We need to be ready. Once we get in, we'll be in the middle of a war zone." I nodded, my focus unwavering. The barrier yielded under my efforts, its energy parting to create a safe breach. "Done. I've created a safe breach. We can move in now." Tetsuo nodded, his face set with determination. "All right, let's go. Stay sharp and stick together. We're walking into a war zone." He paused for a moment, his gaze intense. "First, everyone put on these masks." He unsealed a set of masks, handing them out to each of us. The masks were blank, featureless, designed to obscure our identities. They may know who we are, but they won't know our abilities from the bingo book. This is a measure we take when going into hostile territory. As we donned the masks, a sense of anonymity settled over us. Our identities were hidden, but our mission was clear. Tetsuo continued, "Waji, give assistance to Asuma Sarutobi. Don't lose the element of surprise." I'll break the formation of the trio of lightning users and their collaborative ninjutsu. Naruto, keep your cover and provide support from the shadows. If things go south, take the daimyo and flee to Sector 72. It's the nearest safe zone at 2 o'clock south. The tension was palpable as Tetsuo's countdown began. 3, 2, 1, now. Tetsuo's countdown was a mere whisper, yet it resonated through the tension-filled air. 3, 2, 1, now. We moved in sync, our movements precise and silent. I created a few water clones, each tasked with taking down enemies from the shadows. I made my way toward the daimyo's carriage, surrounded by a mix of samurai, a guardian, and a few monks. There were 10 people in total, each looking formidable. As I moved toward the daimyo's carriage, I noticed it was surrounded by samurai, a guardian, and a few monks. There were only 10 people standing guard, but their demeanor made it clear they were ready to defend with their lives. I approached with my hands held up to show that I meant no harm. "Hold your positions," I said calmly, making sure my voice carried no threat. "I have important information." The samurai eyed me warily, their grips tightening on their weapons. Slowly, I reached into my pouch and pulled out 2 scrolls. These scrolls contain critical details. One confirms the Chunin's guard detail for the daimyo. The other is a message from my captain, Jonin Tetsuo, verifying our mission to protect the daimyo. I passed the scrolls to a leaf shinobi. He stepped aside, carefully examining them to ensure there were no hidden paper bombs or other threats. His movements were meticulous and cautious. "The first scroll," I explained, "is the mission scroll confirming the Chunin's guard detail for the daimyo. The second one contains a message from my captain, Jonin Tetsuo, identifying part of our mission as being part of the daimyo's search by information the Chunin gave." The leaf shinobi unrolled the second scroll and read aloud, his voice tense. "This is a message from Jonin Tetsuo. We have been assigned to the Lord Daimyo's search and to confirm the legitimacy of the information. Immediate action is required to ensure the safety of Lord Una of the Land of Fire." As he finished reading, I noticed the daimyo peeking through the carriage's curtains, his eyes filled with a mix of apprehension and curiosity. Meanwhile, I observed the daimyo in his carriage. Upon closer inspection, I noticed an intricate seal enveloping the carriage. The seal was incredibly advanced, likely capable of withstanding even an S-rank jutsu. I reached out with my senses, a new ability I had recently developed, allowing me to feel the intricacies of seals. This innate sense provided me with a deeper understanding of the barrier's complexity. As I explored this newfound sense, chaos erupted around me. Waji, breaking his cover, leaped into the midst of the lightning trio, Kitane, Nama, and To. They were in the process of forming a powerful combined jutsu, Raiton, Raryu no Tatsumaki, lightning release, Thunder Dragon Tornado, while Chiriku was kept occupied by several rebels. With a swift movement, Waji swung his boken staff, enhanced with chakra, and shattered Nama's skull, killing him instantly and disrupting their jutsu. The interruption caused a significant shift in the battlefield's balance. Tetsuo attempted a decapitating strike on Kazuma with his lightning-enhanced blade while Kazuma was in the process of unleashing Futon, Fajin no Sura, Wind Release, Slash of the Wind God. The battlefield was a whirlwind of chaos, with samurai clashing in fierce combat, the clanging of steel and bursts of chakra filling the air. Kazuma stood in the midst of it all, a commanding presence amid the turmoil. Kazuma, with incredible reflexes, halted his jutsu just in time to duck under Tetsuo's blade. The lightning-enhanced strike sliced through the air above Kazuma's head, crackling with deadly energy. In one fluid motion, Kazuma retaliated, his legs sweeping out to catch Tetsuo off guard. The force of the kick sent Tetsuo sprawling backward, crashing through a group of samurai who were locked in combat. The samurai around them barely registered the clash, their focus entirely on their own battles. The intensity of the fight between Kazuma and Tetsuo seemed to ripple through the air, an epicenter of raw power and skill. Tetsuo quickly regained his footing, but it was clear that Kazuma's abilities were on a different level. The sheer difference in their strength and speed was evident as Kazuma pressed his advantage, forcing Tetsuo to defend against a relentless barrage of attacks. Amidst the chaos, the samurai and monks continued their struggle, their faces set in grim determination. The battle was a test of endurance and skill, each side fighting with everything they had to gain the upper hand. Kazuma's dominance in the skirmish painted a stark picture of the odds they faced, highlighting the desperate situation they were in. As the shinobi verified the scrolls, their suspicion lingered. Only Waji's success in crippling the enemy guardians provided a sliver of trust. Amidst the chaos, I moved with my katana, taking down samurai left and right while laying trap seals around the perimeter. My katana gleamed as I coated it with a thin layer of water, a technique I had perfected called suetun, mizieba, water release, blade of flowing water. The water sharpened the blade to a razor edge, allowing it to slice through bone and metal with ease. Each swing of my sword was precise and deadly, the enhanced blade cutting through armor and flesh like paper. I felt the resistance of each strike, the impact reverberating through my arms as I struck down one samurai after another. Blood sprayed in arcs, painting the snow-dusted ground crimson. The samurai's screams were drowned out by the din of battle, their bodies crumpling to the ground in my wake. With a swift upward slash, I cleaved through the chest plate of the samurai, the force of the blow sending him sprawling. The water-coated blade slipped effortlessly through his ribcage, severing his heart in a single, fluid motion. Another samurai lunged at me from the side, his sword aimed at my head. I spun on my heel, bringing my katana around in a sweeping arc. The blade connected with his neck, decapitating him in one clean stroke. The headless body toppled to the ground, blood gushing from the severed neck. I continued to weave through the battlefield, my senses heightened, eyes scanning for threats. The trap seals I laid around the perimeter were a mix of explosive and immobilizing seals, designed to deter and incapacitate any enemy trying to flank us. As I moved, I activated a few of the seals, causing explosions that sent enemies flying, their bodies charred and broken. In a brief lull in the fighting, I took a moment to catch my breath, my eyes scanning the battlefield. Tetsuo and Waji were engaged in fierce combat, their movements a blur as they fought off the remaining guardians. Asuma and Chiriku were holding their ground, their skills and experience evident in every strike. A sudden movement caught my eye, and I turned just in time to see a group of samurai charging towards me. I tightened my grip on my katana, the water-coated blade gleaming ominously. With a roar, I launched myself at them, my sword slicing through the air with deadly precision. "Suetun, mizieba!" I shouted, the blade slicing through armor, flesh, and bone with ease. The first samurai fell, his chest split open from shoulder to hip. The second tried to block my strike, but my katana cleaved through his sword, the water-enhanced edge cutting through his torso like a hot knife through butter. The third samurai stumbled back, his eyes wide with fear. I didn't give him a chance to recover. With a swift, downward strike, I cut him down, the blade slicing through his skull and into his spine. The battlefield was a maelstrom of violence and chaos, but I moved with purpose and precision. Each kill was a testament to the training and discipline instilled in me by my mentors. As I continued to fight, the blood of my enemies stained my clothes and skin, the metallic scent mixing with the acrid smell of burning wood. I noticed Asuma was gravely wounded, and Tetsuo was struggling. Kazuma's blade, Raijin no Sura, gleamed with deadly intent as he moved in for the kill. Just as Kazuma was about to decapitate Tetsuo, I used Suetun, Geyser no Jutsu, water release, geyser technique, drenching Kazuma and causing partial electrocution. The momentary distraction allowed Tetsuo to grab Asuma, and create distance. Kazuma, a master of lightning and wind, recovered quickly, dodging my Suiten, Suruden no Jutsu, water release, water dragon bullet technique, with ease. Angered, he unleashed his lightning jutsu on the tree I was hiding in, obliterating it. I barely managed to escape, feeling the heat of the blast on my back. Just as I was about to move closer to the daimyo's carriage, a rogue jonin from IW blocked my path. His presence was imposing, and his eyes were filled with a deadly focus. "What's a genin doing here?" he sneered, impressed that I had survived this long in the skirmish. I gripped my katana tighter, knowing this wouldn't be an easy fight. The jonin wasted no time, launching a barrage of earth-based attacks. I dodged and countered with my water sword technique, coating my blade with a layer of water that sliced through his defenses and drew blood. But then the jonin used an earth technique to harden himself. I called it Mizu no Hien, flying swallow of water, but he blocked it with his reinforced kunai and earthen shield. We exchanged a flurry of attacks, and he quickly gained the upper hand. The rogue jonin was relentless. He blocked my attacks with an earthen shield and countered with powerful punches and kicks. Our battle was a deadly dance of taijutsu and kinjutsu, each of us pushing me to the limit. His strength was formidable and way stronger than mine, but I had been training for this. I switched to jinjutsu, weaving illusions to throw him off balance. His eyes flickered with confusion for a moment, but he quickly dispelled it, his experience showing through. I realized that standard tactics wouldn't work on him, and if nothing changed, I would die or end up losing a lot of chakra. I needed something more. Summoning my chakra, I unleashed a series of water jutsus. Suidun, Suijin Hiki, water release, water wall. I created a barrier to deflect his earth spikes, then followed up with Suitun, Suikoden no Jutsu, water trumpet technique, to keep him on the defensive. But he was unfazed, blocking everything I threw at him with earth walls and stone barriers. He soon got the upper hand. Seeing that direct confrontation was getting me nowhere, I decided to outsmart him. I used an overpowering Suitun, Mizudepo, water release, water gun, to break through his defenses, shattering his earth wall. As he stumbled back, I threw several smoke bombs and a seal I created with multiple false alarms to all 5 senses, creating a chaotic mix of false chakra signatures, smells, and sounds to confuse him. The rogue jonin was momentarily disoriented, his senses overwhelmed by the sensory overload. This was my chance. I used the first jutsu I had created, Suihashi, water needle. It was inspired by the second Mizukage description of the Hazuki clan's water finger gun technique, but modified to be used from the mouth. A small jet of water shot out in 3 streams as thin as threads, churning with such high speed that it was unreal. This technique, which I called Suihashi, water needle, could pierce through bone, flesh, and armor with keyhole precision. In that brief moment of disarray, I aimed and fired. The thin, high-speed jet of water shot from my mouth, cutting through the air like a silent bullet. The jet struck the jonin's forehead with pinpoint accuracy, piercing through flesh, bone, and his headband effortlessly. His eyes widened in shock before he crumpled to the ground, lifeless. As I stood over the lifeless body of the rogue jonin, a wave of realization washed over me. The battlefield had taught me that even the mightiest could fall if they were unlucky or careless. It reminded me of an old saying among shinobi. In the heat of battle, if a jonin is unlucky or careless, even a lowly genin can take him down. This truth resonated deeply with me in that moment. Despite being a reserve genin, my training, instincts, and quick thinking had turned the tide in my favor. The fallen jonin was a testament to the unpredictability of combat and the importance of vigilance at all times. By the time I reached the daimyo's carriage, it was under heavy attack. My seals were effective in taking down enemies, but new legions of samurai and unaccounted guardians were slaughtering the remaining defenders. I sneaked past the fighting, reaching the carriage where I saw the daimyo's eyes peeking through a small opening. Your Grace, we have only one option, I said, urgency in my voice. It's very risky. He looked at me, his eyes wide with fear. What's it? I took a deep breath. We run. If my estimates are correct, they will overrun us in the next 20 minutes. I don't know if they can breach your carriage. It's made of the most powerful seals I've ever seen. Even all of them combined can't crack it, but they can wait until you starve inside. The daimyo's face paled as he considered the possibility. Reinforcements will come for me. I shook my head. This place is sealed. My team has relayed our situation to HQ, but I don't think they can find us in time. Desperation etched into his features as he weighed his options. The sound of battle grew closer, and the urgency of our situation became painfully clear. What do we do? He asked, his voice trembling. We need to move now, I replied. I have a plan, but it requires absolute trust and quick action. Can you do that? The daimyo nodded, his resolve hardening. Yes. What do you need me to do? We'll have to leave the carriage and make our way to Sector 72. It's the nearest safe zone, but it's going to be dangerous. I'll create a diversion with my clones and set up barriers to slow them down. You'll need to stay close to me and move quickly. Understood. The daimyo took a deep breath and nodded. Understood. With the plan set, I focused my chakra and created multiple water clones. These clones were essential, not only for creating distractions, but also for helping me construct a makeshift carrying device for the daimyo. Using the hilts of the samurai spears, I tied them together with ninja wire and applied a few strengthening seals. Given the significant height difference between the daimyo and me, carrying him on my back alone would have been nearly impossible. But with this contraption, I could carry him and move quickly through the trees. Meanwhile, I rigged the entire carriage with enough explosive seals, each handmade and far more potent than standard issue. If my comrades knew the extent of explosive seals I carried, they would surely label me an insane pyromaniac. But in this chaos, my skills were a necessary madness. I fought my way through the enemy ranks, my water needles striking true, incapacitating a rebel jonin who was battling the old guardians. The jonin, surprised to see a genin in the thick of battle, remarked, "What's a genin doing here? I'm impressed you've survived this long in this skirmish." I signaled for him to retreat. As he approached, I relayed my plan. His initial reaction was disbelief. Sending the daimyo with a child seemed ludicrous. But a glance at the battlefield convinced him otherwise. Their lines wouldn't hold much longer, and an unaccounted guardian would draw pursuit. Reluctantly, he agreed. Create an opening to the south, I instructed. When this seal vibrates, break the perimeter and let the enemy advance toward the daimyo's carriage. The cargo will detonate, and the explosion will be huge. In the ensuing chaos, we will escape. I'll create clones and hinge them to look like us and inscribe seals to confuse the sensors. Hopefully, it will confuse anyone who spots us. The blast radius will be massive, and the soot and debris will obscure friend from foe. He looked skeptical. Can you even manage that? Do you have enough chakra left to create more clones? I smiled. I've already sealed chakra-infused water for my Chunin exam. It's a small pond's worth of water, with gallons and gallons infused over the past 4 months. It takes me very little chakra to use any water jutsu. For a water clone, I need just enough chakra for an academy clone. I have naturally higher chakra than people my age, but it's still less than that of seasoned shinobi. Chakra exhaustion is not something I want to deal with, so I created this way to compensate for my handicap. My water jutsu requires minimal chakra because of this. That's why I'm only using water techniques. It's far more complicated than merely infusing water, but sealing techniques are a great boon. Constantly mixing water and chakra means I hardly use any chakra for my water jutsu, nor am I relying on a water source. This is my greatest accomplishment in sealing. I plan to use it in the Chunin exam for one big water dragon to impress the higher-ups. Alas, I never thought I would be using it for a situation like this. The guardian's eyes widened in surprise. You're an impressive child for a genin. I continued. After the explosion, Let the enemy pass while you reinforce Asuma and Chiriku. They will think the daimyo is moving there since the entire protection detail will change its location. When a seal vibrates a third time, scatter and harass them with guerrilla tactics. How does that sound? I'm not very experienced in strategy making. The Guardian nodded approvingly. It's a solid plan, but there's one hole in it. You can enter the barrier, but you can't exit it. The Chunin who came for help likely escaped during the initial attack. I smiled, pointing to one of my clones working diligently. One of my clones has been on it since we arrived. Everything is ready. When the explosion happens, the barrier will collapse. The Guardian, reassured, said, "There are a few rough ends in the plan I'll handle. No time to discuss further. Ensure the daimyo's safety." Before he left, he asked, "What's your name, kid?" "Naruto," I replied. "Good knowing you, Naruto. I'm Zahir, the chief of the 12 Guardian Ninjas." With a nod, he dashed off to fulfill his part of the plan. I readied myself, the weight of the daimyo's life and the fate of this battle resting heavily on my shoulders. The countdown had begun, and there was no turning back. I slaughtered and slipped my way to the daimyo's carriage, my katana dripping with the blood of enemies as I carved a path through the chaos. The sight of the daimyo's eyes peering through a small opening in the carriage filled me with a renewed sense of urgency. "Everything is ready, Your Grace," I called out. "May I enter the carriage?" The daimyo immediately opened the door, allowing me inside. As the door swung open, I noticed the seals glowing with a soft, reassuring light. I had already relayed our plan to him, and he looked at me with a mix of anxiety and hope. "Are you sure of this plan?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. "Yes, Your Grace," I replied firmly. "This is our best chance." With his permission, I activated the communication seal. When the vibration was received by the old Guardian, he relayed the plan to the Loyalist leader. They were ordered to slowly move to the south, opening another flank while the rest positioned themselves to assist Tetsuo and Waji. By now, the Loyalists had moved and cleared their positions. The daimyo grew increasingly nervous, watching the enemy shinobi and samurai converge on our location. We waited as the enemy tried to break in with various jutsu. I was left in awe at the integrity of the seals protecting the carriage. It was one thing to theorize about their strength, and another to witness it in action. One of the rebel guardians bombarded the carriage with a massive fire dragon jutsu, Katan Karyuenden, attempting to cook us both inside. I felt a pang of nervousness seeing the size of the jutsu, but it didn't even scratch the surface. I marveled at the craftsmanship, wondering who had created such a masterpiece. In addition to the fire dragon jutsu, the carriage was also hit by a series of other powerful techniques. One rebel unleashed a lightning release, false darkness, Raitan, John, sending a spear of lightning crashing against the seals. Another tried to breach with earth release, earth dragon bullet, Doton, Doryuden, which pummeled the carriage with heavy projectiles. Yet, the seals held firm, their intricate designs absorbing and deflecting the attacks with unwavering strength. Each attack made my heart pound, but the carriage remained unharmed. The defensive seals were truly remarkable, capable of withstanding multiple high-level jutsu. My respect for the seal master who created them grew with each failed enemy attempt. The reply vibration from the monk indicated that they were in position. I taunted the guardian outside, goading him into attacking. He tried to slip his tanto through a small gap, but the barrier seals activated, stopping his blade in its tracks. Seizing the moment, I activated the explosion seal. The resulting blast was immense, the sound deafening. I turned to the daimyo, who was already seated in the makeshift carrier I had constructed. I slung the carrier onto my back, reinforcing my body with chakra. I signaled to the clones and the daimyo copies to move first. The explosion had filled the area with thick smoke and soot, obscuring vision entirely. But I knew how to navigate through my sensory deprivation seals. I weaved my way through the battlefield, sensing the least occupied paths. We made it safely to the hole in the barrier that had formed from the explosion. I hadn't collapsed the barrier entirely because I didn't want the enemy to follow us immediately. I wanted them to think the daimyo was either still in his carriage or had moved in a different direction. I ran, hopping from tree to tree, my senses on high alert for any sign of pursuit. Although I sensed no immediate threat, I couldn't afford to be complacent. After half an hour of relentless running, I finally saw the outpost at Sector 72. The relief that washed over me was indescribable. I activated my seal to signal that the daimyo was safe. At the same time, I triggered another seal to command my water clone to collapse the barrier entirely. As we entered Sector 72, we were immediately surrounded by 4 platoons of shinobi and reinforced by 15 jonin, all with weapons drawn. Sector 72 was not just a sector, it was a Tier 2 command center for counterfront operations. The commander, a stern-looking jonin, stepped forward, his eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Who are you?" I had forgotten that as soon as I collapsed the barrier, the sensors would pick up the chakra signals again, and the anomaly would have immediately sent pandemonium through the nearby ranks, putting everyone on edge. Covered in soot and unrecognizable, I carefully set the daimyo down and helped him stand. The commander's voice grew more impatient. "This is the last time I'm asking, kid. Who are you?" Lifting my hands slowly to show I meant no harm, I spoke clearly. "I am a genin from Konoha, registration number 687-312-0234. I unsealed my ID and handed it over, making sure to move slowly and without any threatening gestures. I was posted to Sector 58. I have relayed everything that happened to him." The commander looked at me skeptically. "And you expect me to believe that? And this is Lord Daimyo, riding on the back of a genin." The platoons laughed, one even mocking, "Make up a better story, kid." Annoyed, I stood my ground as the commander continued examining my ID. The daimyo, now shaking off his shock and fear, found his voice. "You dare make me wait?" he shouted at the jonin, his voice regaining its authoritative edge. Trying to calm the situation, I said, "Bring a bowl of water and a cloth." A bowl of water was quickly brought. The daimyo cleaned his face, revealing his identity. The commander's eyes widened in recognition from one of his postings in the palace. The jonin immediately went down on one knee, bowing deeply. The rest of the platoon followed suit. "My apologies, Lord Daimyo-sama. We did not recognize you. Please forgive us. Grant us the honor of escorting you. You are safe now." The dramatic shift in tone was palpable. The previously skeptical shinobi now stood in awe and respect. The laughter and mocking were replaced by silence and reverence. The gravity of the situation settled over them as they realized the true identity of the man I had been protecting. "Lord Daimyo-sama, please come inside," the commander urged, his voice filled with urgency and respect. "We need to ensure your safety and debrief immediately." The daimyo nodded, his eyes still reflecting the tension of the ordeal. "The boy saved my life. Make sure he is given the respect and assistance he deserves." "Of course, Lord Daimyo," the commander replied, his tone solemn. "Genin, you have our gratitude. Please, both of you follow me." As we were escorted into the command center, I couldn't help but feel a sense of accomplishment. Despite the danger and overwhelming odds, we had made it. The daimyo was safe, and I had proven my worth in the eyes of my superiors and the highest authority in the Land of Fire. The battle wasn't over, but for now, we had won a crucial victory. With the daimyo now in the safe hands of Sector 72's defenders, I allowed myself a moment to breathe. I knew the situation outside was still dire, with Tetsuo, Waji, Asuma, and the others fighting to hold back the enemy. But at least here, in this moment, we had a chance to regroup and plan our next move. As I caught my breath, my mind raced with the political implications of what had just transpired. This attempted coup would send shockwaves through both Konoha and the capital. Heads would roll, not just figuratively, but possibly literally. The daimyo's near capture and the betrayal within the Guardian 12 could lead to severe repercussions. Trust would be shattered, alliances questioned, and the blame would undoubtedly fall on several shoulders. I wondered what the Hokage would do, how the councils in both the village and the capital would react. This wasn't just a battle. It was a pivotal moment that could redefine the power dynamics and stability of the entire Land of Fire. The gravity of the situation was almost overwhelming and surely above my pay grade, and I knew that the consequences of today's events would be felt for a long time to come.